Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents House of Ravens by Karpov Kinraid, narrated by Emily Wu Zeller. Preface. An impossible choice stands before me, one I must make between heartbeats. I can't save them both. Whichever choice I make will weigh on my heart forever. I hear his voice in my head, in my heart. I came here to protect them. And I know the choice I have to make. The choice that will break me. Chapter 1. Nox Aeterna. The house burns, flames licking at the dark sky, turning the pitch of night into a violent sunset of oranges and reds. I inhale the smell of burning wood. I can feel the heat against my cheeks, even from a distance. I can hear the screams of the neighbors crying out in fear, then in anger. The man stands in front of the burning house, staring at his hands, his eyes wide, his bewildered face cast in shadows. I know him. He sells produce at our farmer's market every Saturday. He always gives me free strawberries, and he has a nice smile. A kind smile. But he's not smiling now. He never smiles again. I run to him. I can feel in my stomach that something bad is going to happen. I know he broke the law. No one knew he was a Zenith. Maybe he didn't know. But now, everyone knows. And as they grab him and drag him to the tree in his yard, I see the fear in his eyes. I run faster. I have to stop them. I have to help him. I stumble on a fallen branch, scraping my knee. It stings and the blood wells on my pale skin. They've already put the rope around his neck, and they are stringing him up. No! Stop! I scream to them, but no one ever listens to little girls. I'm running again, ignoring the pinch of pain in my knee. But I'm too late. I hear the snap of his neck as he's dropped from the tree like a sack of potatoes. A dark spot spreads over his pants, and I turn my face away. My dad catches me around the waist and holds me to his chest, hiding my eyes with his large hands.
Scarlet, we have to go.
You have to help him, Daddy. He didn't do anything wrong.
The crowd is already bored. They walk back to their homes alone or in twos and threes. My dad pulls out his pocket knife, walks over to the tree and cuts the rope around the man's neck. His body falls to the ground. There's no life left in him. His house burns to the ground, casting shadows of light and dark over his fallen corpse.
Scarlet? Scarlet Knight?
A voice nags at my subconscious, pulling me out of my dreams. Or were they nightmares? The images flee, leaving me with nothing but impressions of strong hands holding me. My father. I peek through bleary eyes and sleep-filled lashes to see who's in my room calling my name at this ungodly hour. I see the pink hair first, a long bob on one side and buzzed short on the other. The girl, who looks to be a bit younger than me, smiles big, her purple eyes far too lively. I reach for my e-glass, knocking a thick book to the floor. I was up all night reading about the Four Orders, political history, and the different royal families that have reclaimed their old titles as part of the orders, so my head is full of cobwebs and sleep. The time on my e-glass blinks 5:58 in red numbers. I groan and roll over, pulling the blanket over my head. Sorry, but Scarlet is unavailable. Please leave a message after the beep. My brain shuts down, my body instantly ready to return to the land of dreams when a small hand shakes my shoulder.
Scarlet, I'm Corinne, she says in a British accent. We're roomies.
I hear the smile in her voice, but I just groan again. I was hoping I'd get to keep the room to myself. This will make sneaking out so much harder. But it's a huge room, with 2 beds, dressers, desks, an e-screen, and a private bathroom, so it makes sense they'd put me with a roommate, and Agatha warned me I'd likely have to share. I roll over to face the girl attached to the voice, and she smiles even bigger.
Jax told me wonderful things about you.
Her face shifts, her smile dropping.
I'm sorry about your parents. They were great knights.
I sit up a little in my bed at this news. You knew them?
My father's a Templar. He tells me stories.
The girl steps back and sits down on the bed opposite mine. She has a suitcase at her feet, but hasn't unpacked yet. Probably because of her jerk of a roommate. I smile and lean forward. Sorry for brushing you off and being a grouch. I don't usually get up this early. She taps her e-glass and mine beeps, indicating an incoming file.
Guess you haven't seen your class schedule yet,
she says. I access the file she sent, trying to read through the haze of sleep still in my eyes. She smiles at me encouragingly.
You'll get used to it.
When the numbers clear, I choke out a laugh. I will not be getting used to this schedule. Ever. We have physical training at 05:30 every day? She shrugs.
Just the weekdays.
Oh, good. That's so much better. She points to the rest of my classes.
There are 2 classes led by each order, like Law and Order for Inquisition.
That's a real class?
Actually, that's 2. Law, Order.
Right. I scan through the rest of my classes. Combat, survival, emergency medical training. So first they beat us up, then teach us to survive, then teach us how to fix ourselves? She laughs.
Pretty much. It's an intense program.
No kidding. What else? Espionage. That sounds fun. Strategy. That shouldn't be hard, and maybe I'll even learn something. History? Meh. APD. What's APD? Her face lights up.
Anatomy, Physiology, and Diagnostics. I can't wait for that one.
Let me guess. You're shooting for hospitallers? She nods.
I've wanted to study medicine my whole life. I'd ask what you're hoping for, but I think everyone knows you'll be in Templar.
I shrug. Yeah, I guess. I haven't really thought too much about it. She blinks and looks away.
Right. You've had so much to deal with. It must have been difficult to go through initiate trials right after your parents died.
She looks back at me, her eyes kind and open. I've never seen eyes like hers. So purple. Of course, I've only recently been able to see in color, so maybe purple eyes are the new fad, and I've just been missing out.
I'm sorry you've been alone here, she says, but that's why I'm here. Jax told me you still don't have your school supplies. I thought I could show you around the city and help you get them. He wanted to, but he's busy going over the curriculum. He wrote you this.
She hands me a note folded like a flying airplane.
Not sure what he has against using his e-glass.
I look at the airplane, studying the lines in the paper. I have to choke back my emotions as I think about our life before all this. It's something we used to do. I open the note to Jax's familiar scrawl. Sorry I can't show you around, but Corinne is awesome. I thought you should get to know each other before classes start. Friends to the end. I fold the airplane back together and send it flying toward my desk. It lands on my notebook right where I aimed. Are you and Jax close? I ask Corinne. I still can't believe how much I don't know about my best friend and his life outside of our small plebeian existence.
We've spent time together here over the years, she says. He's a good friend.
She stands and looks down at her suitcases.
Maybe I'll unpack while you get ready? I've got an awesome day planned for us.
I thought we were just getting school supplies, I say, swinging my legs out of bed. I shiver as my feet hit the cold stone floor. We need to get some rugs in here.
At first, she says,
as she pulls brightly colored scarves out of her suitcase and hangs them in her closet.
But Jax told me you haven't seen much of New York, so I'm taking you to the zoo. And after, we're going to see my favorite show, Nox Aeterna.
I've seen a lot as Nightfall, but executions and rebel planning probably don't count for what she has in mind. Nox Aeterna? Night Eternal. Sounds like my kind of show.
Brilliant,
she says as she finishes putting away her clothes. When she's finished, she scoots her suitcase under her bed, then organizes an assortment of books and art supplies on her shelves and desk.
Oh, and wear something semi-casual. Eden fashionables are hot right now.
She holds up her bracelet of leaves and dangles it for me to see. As I watch, a flower bud blossoms, releasing a sweet aroma into the air. She grins and drapes a purple and green scarf around her neck, expertly draping across her silk blouse. She looks at me a moment, smiling.
You're really beautiful. Is your hair naturally that blonde, or do you use easy dye?
I pull at a strand of my pale hair. It's natural. I take it yours isn't? She laughs, and it sounds like bells.
Nope. Normally my hair is dark brown.
She pulls a silver and blue scarf from her closet and holds it up to my face.
This would be so perfect with your eyes. Want to borrow it?
Sure. Thanks. I take it from her and set it on my bed. You have really pretty eyes, too, I say, trying to get into this girl-sharing thing. She looks away at the compliment.
A family trait.
She puts sunglasses on and reaches for her purse.
I'm going to grab us something to eat. Meet you by the gate in 10?
I nod, and she leaves me alone to dress. I grab Evie from my dresser and slip her over my ear.
Good morning, Scarlet. You're up earlier than normal,
she says in her own crisp British accent. No kidding. Looks like this is going to be a thing.
How will you make time for your Nightfall training and work as well? Humans need so much sleep. It's quite a waste.
I'm still rummaging through my clothes, trying to figure out what to wear when Agatha comes in, a cup of coffee in hand. Her grayed hair is pulled in a tight bun, and her black uniform looks freshly pressed. She raises an eyebrow, her lips pulling into a small smile.
Up already? I thought surely I'd have to drag you from bed.
I roll my eyes at her. I have a new roommate. I gesture to the other side of the room. She's a morning person, it would seem. Agatha sets the coffee on my desk.
This should be fun.
She winks, and I laugh.
What are your plans today?
She asks, eyeing my questionable clothing choices. A trip to the city to get school supplies. I don't tell her about the play because Corinne is waiting and I don't want Agatha to fuss over me. She frowns at the unpacked bags under Corinne's bed.
She should have waited for me to unpack her.
Agatha stands with a fist on her hip.
You two are going to be challenging to me this year, aren't you?
If you're lucky, I say, hoping my new roommate is as open-minded as I am about my newly freed former serf. When Agatha was assigned to me, to this room, really, during my initiate trials, she was a serf, an indentured servant with no freedoms because of her father's gambling debts. I paid off her family debts and made her a free man, but she insisted on staying to serve me. I insisted on fair wages and the freedom to leave any time she wants. We are still figuring out this new relationship. Since I was raised plebeian and have only been a patrician for a few weeks, I still act below my class. Or so she tells me. Agatha takes over my clothing selection, pulling out black slacks and a blue button-up blouse and laying it on my bed while I sip on the coffee. I smile after the first half is gone, my mind feeling sharper already. Thank you for this. I feel much more human now. She snorts and then frowns at my hair.
Let's get you ready then, shall we? And while you're out, please try to pick up some decent clothing. There's only so much I can do with what you have on hand.
Once I'm dressed and my hair is braided, I pick up the silk scarf Corinne loaned me and try to recreate the knot she made with hers. I fail, and instead just drape it around my neck like a noose. Agatha rolls her eyes and unwinds the scarf, looping it a few times until it looks like it should. I snort and slip my feet into black boots, presenting myself to Agatha for approval. She crosses her arms over her chest, eyeing me up and down. It will do. She grabs a basket of my laundry before she leaves. I'll have these back to you this evening. Enjoy your day, Your Grace. You too, Agatha. I still cannot get used to being called Your Grace. It's so strange. Once she is gone, I tap my e-glass. Evie, any news on my blood test? I rescanned all files within Castle V. No test shows up, and nothing from your GenMod surgery revealed anything unusual. I sigh. It's been a while since the Hospitallers drew my blood for testing after I was attacked by an angel and left for dead. I've had a GenMod since then to bring me to full patrician standard, with all the strength, speed, and grace one of my class should possess, and no alarms have been triggered. But still I worry. If any of those tests show me as Nephilim, I will be executed. Scarlet, I have important news you will want to see. Show me. Evie projects a video of me as Nightfall through my e-glass, filling the space in front of me with my own image slashing an aircraft until it crashes down from the sky. I land beside it as a reporter speaks. The Nephilim may have returned, but Sir Lux, Knight of the Fourth Order, says there is nothing to fear. The video switches to an image of Jax in his Teutonic knight cloak and sword. He stands behind a podium and stares at the camera, his blue eyes penetrating even as one stray lock of dark hair falls into them. We defeated the Nephilim once, and we shall do so again. A reporter from the audience shouts at him, You said you'd eradicate the Nephilim, yet here they are. How is that possible? No comment, he says. The crowd becomes one voice of discontent and outrage. Soon another question is shouted from the group. Why did you work with Nightfall, an enemy of the Orders, to capture and kill Apex? The room falls to silence, waiting for Jax to answer. I wait with them, my breath held. A knight does what is right, no matter the cost. That does not mean I support what her and the rebels are doing to our world. He looks directly into the camera, into me. Nightfall, are you watching this? If you are, there are things you need to know. If you continue, people will die. You will be responsible. If you wish for peace, stop now. Remember, what happens next is up to you. The video cuts out, and I stand there, my hands shaking. I'm sorry, Scarlet, Evie says into my ear. Evie, I'm fine. Your heart rate and breathing indicate otherwise. Careful, Evie, or I may have to turn down your sympathy setting. Please do. It would make dealing with humans so much easier. I chuckle and reach for my jacket. Heart rate stabilizing. Breath slowing. My work here is done. I smile. Thanks, Evie. You're welcome, Scarlet. I throw on my black leather jacket and check my pack for my black mask and easy dye. If I get caught with these, they can raise questions, but in and of themselves, they aren't particularly incriminating. And I need some way of shifting into Nightfall at a moment's notice. Jax's note still sits on my desk, and I pick it up, studying the shape of the airplane. Evie's voice jolts me back to attention. Scarlet? Yes. What will you do about Jax? According to my sympathy settings, I'm rather fond of him. It's always been Jax and me against the world. Now... I look down at the note and then squeeze my hand together, collapsing the airplane into a ball. I'll do what is right, no matter the cost. Summer hasn't yet given way to autumn, and I enjoy the warmth on my face as we walk through the zoo. I stuff my jacket into my pack and then lick the chocolate tip of my ice cream cone before it melts under the hot September sun. Before coming to the zoo, we finished all of our school shopping and had everything delivered back to Castle V via special courier. I didn't even know we could do that. but Corinne seems to know all the tricks to living like a pat. Now we stand in the middle of Nova Vetus Sanctum, a zoo for animals that are a blend of new genes and old. We already saw the monkey with wings, the insect labyrinth that will forever haunt my nightmares, and the zebra chameleons that can change their look based on environment. Genetic modification of animals is only allowed by approval of the Hospitallers and hasn't made its way into mainstream society like Eden fashionables. After what I've seen today, that's probably a good thing. We walk into a dark stone building, more like a cave, and the temperature drops. Everything is dark as we make our way to the next exhibit. Corinne smiles at me and licks her strawberry ice cream as a bit of it dribbles down her chin. She wipes it away.
We don't have zoos like this in Sapientia. The one in London tries, but New York really has the best.
The Kingdom of Sky is lacking in exciting zoos as well, I say. It's pretty much lacking in anything exciting. I'm surprised I can speak of my home without pain infecting my voice. We sit on a bench in front of a small lake that glows with the fluorescent light of its occupants. As we watch, a giant fish with glowing multicolored scales jumps up from the pool and eats one of the glowing bugs swarming at the surface. Water splashes onto us, and we both shriek and move back, laughing. I look down at my ice cream, now dripping with fishiness. This wasn't exactly the flavor I was going for. We drop our ice creams in a trash bin and keep walking. A street bot rolls over and also dumps its contents in the bin before it continues working. Corinne pulls on her large dark sunglasses as we leave the cave. "You're from Sapientia?" I ask, going back to what she'd said earlier.
Yes.
That explains the accent. I've always wanted to go to Great Britain. My mother was from there, like my grandfather.
You've never been?
I shake my head. I was raised plebe, so we didn't travel much.
Right, I heard about that. So strange to imagine being raised such a low class.
I flinch, and she covers her mouth.
I am so sorry. That was incredibly rude of me. I didn't mean it like it sounded. I've always wondered what it's like to not be a Pat.
Her voice is wistful, and it surprises me. You're the first Pat I've met who doesn't automatically assume it's the worst thing in the world, I say. She shrugs.
There are obviously more privileges and options to being patrician, but any time you have a world with such a divided class system, everyone loses.
I'm starting to like my new roommate. It's not all bad, being a plebe. It's hard, sure. We never had enough food or resources, but I had great parents who loved me. Freedom to study what I liked. Tears clog my throat as I speak of that life in the past tense. It wasn't all bad. She reaches for my hand, squeezing it.
I'm sorry,
she whispers, and I see a shared pain in her eyes that tells me more than all her words. She has lost someone. She knows pain. We share this moment for a few heartbeats before she smiles and taps her e-glass, pulling up the map of the zoo.
Do you want to go see the new exhibit they have here? Giant lizards with dinosaur traits. I heard it's amazing.
I smile, ready to move into a happier space. Sure. We walk for a bit, admiring the huge mushroom and giant hybrid trees that dot the landscape and create a fantasy feel. As we get closer to the exhibit Corinne wants to see, a man we noticed a few times around the zoo looks over to us, his eyes focused on Corinne. He walks over, picking up his pace as he gets closer. "Hey, are you—"
"Is there a problem?"
Corinne snaps at him in a tone I didn't think this petite girl could muster. The man backs away, hands in the air. No, sorry." He rushes off, and I stare at my new roommate. What was that about? Corinne shrugs.
I often get mistaken for someone I'm not.
There's something sad in her eyes, and I wonder what secrets she carries. We all have them, it seems.
Let's go see the lizards.
She grabs my hand and pulls me forward, and I follow without further comment. Who am I to pry when I have secrets I would never be able to share with her? There's a long line to see the genetically modified lizards, and by the time we make our way to the front, I understand why. They're magnificent and gruesome, beautiful and divine. It's like seeing a piece of prehistoric history come to life. Dinosaurs. Smaller, more tame, but essentially the same. This is incredible, I say. A small creature with big eyes catches my attention. It sits by some stones in the corner of the exhibit, surrounded by water and trees. It looks lonely. It's like playing God, though, isn't it? I ask. Corinne looks at me, a slight frown on her lips. What do you mean? These animals were created for a profit, I say. Their whole lives have been controlled. They are experiments we keep for money and amusement. They aren't just that, she argues. These animals helped initiate some of the biggest scientific breakthroughs for hospitalers. When Zenith abilities became mainstream, we had to find ways to control them. These animals served as early experiments, yes, but to help protect humanity. They helped us discover how to modify genetics. Those modified animals, and their offspring, were eventually sent to these zoos to give them a peaceful life. That is how Gen Mod began. To give humans an edge in the Nephilim War by endowing elite knights with unnatural strength and speed. Now all Pats are expected to go through Gen Mod by the time they turn 18. Since the patrician bloodlines are supposedly pure, without the infection of Nephilim blood, they need the edge Gen Mod gives them to hold their own in a world with Zeniths. But it's all a lie. Pats have Zenith blood as well. The Gen Mods hide it, giving infected Pats an excuse for their gifts. We shouldn't have been doing these experiments to begin with, I say. Zenith abilities are a natural evolutionary shift in humans, an awakening of the angel blood many are born with. The orders shouldn't be experimenting on animals or humans. Zeniths should be left alone. Even if they are natural, which isn't proven, Corinne says, they're dangerous in the wrong hands. They give a select group of humans abilities that could destroy all of humanity. The orders want to understand Zenith abilities so they can be controlled, given or taken away, like weapon control, to keep people safe. I think about her words, so similar to the conversation Jax and I had recently. So many shades of gray, even now that I can see in color. We watch the dinosaur lizards in silence as live animals are dropped into their habitat. The dinosaurs savagely tear into the animal sacrifice, blood splattering on the protective glass that separates us from the carnage. The small one that watched me earlier makes off with the bulk of the meat. Its mouth bloody. It looks at me again, with knowing eyes. I shiver. Some things can't be controlled. After the zoo, with its haunting philosophical conundrums, we make our way back into the heart of the city to attend Nox Aeterna. I have no idea what to expect, and can't remember the last time I went to the theater. The sun sets, and the cool of twilight feels refreshing against my sun-warmed skin. The show will be starting soon, Corinne says, walking faster. The lights of the city turn on, and a giant white cathedral on the corner gongs its bell at the hour. I stop to admire the beauty of the steeple and architecture as the hum of the bell rings through the city. Do you attend often? Corinne asks, stopping beside me. No. I never did unless required. I remember once, long ago, my parents taking me to the mandatory preaching at the church back home. Jax had sat close to me, our legs pressed together in the uncomfortable pew as a man at the front droned on and on about the bloodsuckers here to steal our souls and bring an end to the world. Jax poked an elbow into my ribs.
His voice is the end of the world.
I couldn't stop giggling, and my father hushed us both with a stern warning, but I could see in his eyes that he had heard and thought it was funny. He wouldn't be there either if he'd had the option. I reached for one of the tiny pencils on the back of the pew next to the hymnal and Bible, grabbed a prayer card, and wrote, "If the world was ending today, what would you want to do?" I folded it into a tiny paper airplane and flew it from my lap to Jax's. The nose of the plane landed on his thigh, and he caught it before it fell to the ground. He peeled it open and read the note, then wrote back in his small, blockish script. "Spend the day with you. Friends to the end." I'd felt a swelling of something I didn't understand. It was warm and filled my chest. I wrote back, "Friends to the end." Corinne pats my back, pulling me into the present and away from old memories. "Want to go in?" she asks. "No, we'll miss our show." I turn from the cathedral and the memories and walk away. Corinne picks up our tickets from will call as I hang back and observe the crowds. I'm definitely underdressed. This crowd favors Eden fashionables and formal attire. Even Corinne, who dressed semi-casual, looks at place here with her touches of modern chic style. I glance down at my slacks, blouse, and tattered pack. The only jewelry I wear is my initiate ring and a long chain around my neck with my father's token of strife. Not exactly party wear. I could have probably bought something while we were out shopping. I'm not used to having money. I'm grateful for the loaned scarf, which upgrades my ensemble to something a little classier. And I see now why Agatha is always scoffing at my wardrobe. I still have too much plebe in me to pass for a true pat. Corinne comes back holding 2 silver coins. Our tickets. "Let's go." I follow her into a grand hall where they serve wine and champagne in tall, sculpted crystal flutes and offer hors d'oeuvres on tiny golden plates. This isn't a regular theatrical production. Inquisition officers stand inconspicuously around the theater, protecting the exits and entrances as we enter. The audience sits in a circle around an arena stage. It's centered in the middle of the auditorium and surrounded by water lit up by colorful lights. "Which seats do we have?" I ask. Corinne points to the boxed seat section located slightly above and directly next to the stage. It's a private room with luxurious velvet chairs and small tables laden with food and drink. A place usually reserved for the very elite. "Wow! This must have been really expensive. Let me pay you back." She waves a small hand at me as I follow her to the seats. "Don't worry about it, really. I got the tickets from a friend." I raise a suspicious eyebrow. "Some friend? Thank them for me." She nods, grinning. An Inquisition officer guards the entrance to the boxed seats and lets us through without incident when Corinne shows our coins. I sink into a plush chair beside her as the lights go down and the show begins. In the center, mist rises to fill the empty stage as a haunting melody in a minor chord fills the auditorium. The mist dissipates to reveal a throne carved from dark stone, floating in the air. A woman sits upon it wearing a crown of yellow and white gold, large wings glowing behind her. The Twilight Queen. To her left and right, 2 men hover in the air with their own golden wings. Their golden armor shines under the lights of the stage. "I wonder how they make the wings look so real," I say. Because they do. They look like mine or Zoran's. It's almost creepy. They could be Nephilim. "Zeniths and special effects," she whispers back. "It's brilliant, isn't it?" Below the Queen, the stage moves soundlessly as 3 old men and a woman approach the throne.
"Who approaches the Twilight Queen?"
asks one of the guards. One of the men in the group steps forward.
"Varian of the Knights Templar."
Another speaks.
"Titus of the Teutonic Knights."
The third man addresses the Queen.
Victus of the Inquisition.
And finally the woman speaks. Marian of the Knights Hospitaller. Varian continues speaking.
Our alliance grows frail, Queen Seraphina. There have been men turned against their will. Babes stolen to be nothing more than food. You must uphold your oaths.
The Queen speaks from her floating throne. I have punished those who have transgressed, and new policies are being put in place so that this does not occur again.
Varian bows his head a fraction.
Then our alliance holds.
Our alliance holds, the Queen agrees. The stage grows darker and thunder claps overhead as a voice offstage calls out, No! The theater fills with white smoke, and lightning flashes through the auditorium. A man flies above us, emerging from the mist, his wings like shadows. He wears a white mask. Nyx, the leader of the Nephilim during the war. As he flies overhead, audience members cry out, shrinking from the sight of him.
You have been deceived,
he says to the representatives of the four orders.
There will be no alliance.
Seraphina rises from her throne, her body floating in the air above them. Be silent! Nyx does not back down.
No! Too long we have tempered ourselves. Too long we have allowed a lesser race to rule.
Seraphina's guards charge forward, but Nyx disarms them instantly with a sword dark as night. He moves for the four knights as other Nephilim, cloaked in black, join him from around the auditorium, flying over us all like avenging dark angels.
Now,
Nyx says, holding his sword high and hovering above the slain bodies of the guards.
It's our turn.
The stage roars with thunder, and lightning rips through the darkness. The audience cheers at the spectacle. We can feel the energy moving under us, shaking us. I sit on the edge of my seat as I watch this version of history unfold. So real, so raw. Nyx overthrows the Queen, but Varian escapes. Battles blaze above us as Nyx and his army of Nephilim win victory after victory. The climax mounts as Nyx and Varian set to duel. They battle, Nyx flying through the sky, Varian fending him off with two swords expertly wielded. The fight is long and brutal, and I honestly can't say whom I'm cheering for. In the end, they are both wounded and can no longer fight. It looks to be a draw. Neither can defeat the other. But then the winds of the battle change. The Pope arrives with reinforcements. Varian never needed to best Nyx one-on-one. He just needed to distract the Nephilim long enough for backup to arrive. It was all a trap. The play ends with Nyx executed by beheading, and Varian bowing before the Pope as he is named King of Sapientia, a kingdom spanning the south of Great Britain. Varian's father died in the war, making Varian heir to the throne. He receives his cloak and sigil, a golden raven on black, and as he leaves the ceremony, his 3 small children run up to him, hugging him, 2 boys and a girl. He's finally reunited with his family after many years of bloody war. The stage goes dark, and the crowd rises to their feet in cheers and applause. My heart pounds in my chest, the whole experience so very visceral. I can't help but join in the enthusiastic applause. Corinne stands next to me, clapping politely.
Not entirely historically accurate, she says, but it is a great show.
Incredible, I say. But why wasn't Erebus, Nyx's apprentice, in the play at all? Corinne shrugs.
I heard he got cut to simplify the storyline.
The actors all take their bows to more applause, and a woman comes on stage holding genetically modified roses that glow in the dim theater.
She's the director,
Corinne says. Thank you for attending our show, the director says. Next week, for our 5th anniversary, King Varian himself will be amongst the audience. We are honored and privileged to have him as our guest, and hope you will all join us for another rousing night of theater. Have a good night. As we begin to file out of the auditorium, a man ahead of us scoffs. His hair is long and blonde, and a red cloak drapes his shoulders.
We all know he's coming for Nightfall, not this stupid show.
My heart skips a beat as I lean into Corinne. You know anything about this?
About what?
She asks, not looking at the man, who has now disappeared in the crowd. I tell her what I heard, and she shrugs and shakes her head. I tap my e-glass. Evie, is King Varian arriving in New York City? Yes, he'll be arriving in a week from Sapientia. Rumors say he's been dispatched by the Pope to apprehend Nightfall. Corinne keeps walking, but I stop, stunned, as people knock into me on their way out. Corinne turns and frowns.
Are you okay?
Yes. I force myself to walk forward and catch up with her.
Good. I think we should go.
She gestures at the nearly empty theater, as Inquisition officers begin searching the seats to make sure everyone has left. Evie speaks into my ear. There's more. Later, I whisper. This will have to wait. I need to act normal and get out of here.
I loved Tony Derez,
Corinne says as we leave the auditorium and make our way through the lobby. Who? I ask, still distracted by thoughts of King Varian, the man who matched Nyx in combat and defeated him in strategy.
Tony Derez? He played Nyx,
she explains.
I love the power in his voice.
Yeah, me too. I need to find out as much as possible about King Varian. There should be a lot of information online. Maybe Zoran knows something as well. As we leave the building, the night air assaults us with its cool freshness. Corinne touches her neck and frowns.
Oh, I forgot my scarf.
She turns to head back toward the door we just left.
I'll be just a minute.
I wait outside as a crowd forms for the next show. As they are allowed into the lobby, an Inquisition officer grabs the arm of a tall, dark-haired woman with a tag in her ear. A zenith.
Excuse me, miss. No zeniths allowed in the theater.
She scowls at him and holds up the small coin in her hand.
But I have a ticket!
He doesn't release her arm.
I'm sorry, but it's against our policy.
Policy?
She gestures to the theater.
There are zeniths in the play!
Trained performers.
I can tell she's near her breaking point. She points to a man exiting the theater, a man with a tag on his ear as well.
What about him? He's a zenith.
Special exemptions are sometimes made,
the officer says.
Look, I may not come from the right family or have the right amount of money, but I'm a citizen. I've paid for my ticket. Now let me in.
She tries to pull her arm out of his hand, but he clings more tightly. Red marks form on her skin.
Sorry, miss.
Fine. I'm going in anyway.
When she yanks her arm a second time, he releases her and stumbles back. She pushes past him, trying to get through the crowds to enter the lobby. The officer looks stunned and confused, and I can't help but grin at her spunk.
Stop that woman,
says a familiar voice. It's the man with the long blonde hair who sneered after the show. Now that I see him from the front, I realize his red cloak is the robe of an inquisitor. He outranks all the guards here. I study his face, long and thin, like the rest of him. He'd be considered handsome by some, but he reminds me of a spider. A very pale spider.
Disobeying an Inquisition officer is against the law,
he tells the befuddled guard.
Of course, sir,
the officer says, grabbing the woman and pulling her back. She struggles against the restraint, but with the Inquisitor present, the officer isn't about to release her again.
Let go of me,
She screams.
I'm within my rights! Shut her up, says the Inquisitor. Miss, be quiet, the officer says.
I will not be.
The Inquisitor growls.
Shut her up.
The officer, who can't be much older than me, looks at the Inquisitor with widened eyes. I can see the struggle on his face, but in the end, he chooses his job over basic humanity. He backhands the woman. She gapes at him, red lines forming across her face. The others waiting in line ignore the whole scene, pretending nothing is happening.
That's better, says the Inquisitor.
I can't believe what I'm seeing. No one comes to this woman's defense, not even the people she came to the play with, who have all slunk back into the crowd. I take a deep breath and step forward. Let her go. The Inquisitor smirks at me, a look of glee in his gray eyes.
Obstructing justice. So childish. Officer, these girls must be punished.
I'll take them to the station, sir, the officer says.
No,
the Inquisitor says, shaking his finger, a sadistic grin on his face.
Punish them here. What?
The officer looks dumbfounded. The Inquisitor leans into the officer's face and speaks quietly with a hiss.
Punish them here.
The officer nods, his body shaking as he uses his free hand to grab the baton at his side. The woman he still holds cries.
No, you can't do this! It's not lawful!
He raises the baton over her face, and I reach out, grabbing his hand, using just enough power to stop him. I am Scarlet Knight, an initiate of Castle Viani, and you will let her go. The Inquisitor laughs.
An initiate? I'll have you whipped for this.
I spin toward the man, rage in my voice.
Who do you think you are?
He chuckles, unimpressed by me or anyone else. The officer answers my question.
He's Thane Blackthorn, a Knight of the Fifth, an Inquisitor, and a Cardinal.
Thane smiles with all the sadistic charm of a psychopath. If Jax was here, he could order Thane to stop. He outranks him. But unless I can touch him and use my powers... I walk forward, ready to reach out and grab him, when Thane raises his hand, fire sparking from his hand and dancing around his fingers.
One more step, girl, and it is I who will punish you.
He's a Zenith? I hiss under my breath to him.
You turn on other Zeniths, your own kind. Don't you understand what it's like for them?
For a moment he seems almost flustered, at a loss for words. But he recovers quickly.
They are not like me, he says. They are weak. I am a knight. I earned my authority.
If that's true, then stop abusing it. Let her go,
I whisper harshly. The Inquisitor holds my eyes and smiles as he speaks to the officer.
Officer, deliver the punishment.
The officer hits the woman in the gut with his baton. She cries out and doubles over in pain. He holds the baton up again, ready to activate the electroshock, and I rush to grab him and stop him, regardless of the consequences, when another voice commands everyone's attention.
Stop this!
Corinne emerges from the crowd and stands to face the officer. He shrugs.
I'm sorry, miss, but I have orders.
And I, Princess Corinne of the House of Ravens, heir to the kingdom of Sapientia, order you to stop.
She pulls off her sunglasses and glares at him with purple eyes.
Princess?
His face lights up in recognition, and he drops to his knees. I stand stunned, watching all this play out. Thane sneers.
Are you sure you wish to challenge me? I don't think I see your daddy.
Corinne turns to the Inquisitor.
I don't need him, Thane, and you know it.
Invoking her royalty gets the crowd's attention, as people use their e-glasses to capture pictures and videos of the scene unfolding. Suddenly, people care. The Inquisitor looks around and notices the same thing.
"Very well."
He gives a mock bow.
"It shall be as you command. Farewell, my princess."
He walks to his car, one of the new e-cars on the market. Very expensive, the crowd parting for him as they continue snapping pictures. Corinne helps the beaten woman stand and stares at the Inquisition officer.
"Take this woman to Curatio Domus and tell them I sent you. Ask for Dr. DeMarcus."
The officer nods and takes charge of the woman.
"Treat her with care. I've scanned your name and rank. If any harm comes to her, I will hold you personally responsible."
Corinne leans in, whispering something to the woman, who sobs and hugs Corinne before the officer leads her away. The fact that Corinne made sure the woman receives medical care at the best hospital in the city impresses me. The fact that she is royalty stuns me. "You're a princess?" I ask as she walks toward me. Before she can reply, the crowds move in on us, howling for autographs and photos. As we push through them to try to find a place in which to disappear, I'm distracted by two thoughts. Corinne is a princess, and her father is coming to kill me. Chapter 2. Wit and Witticisms. We scurry through the crowds and escape the invasive fan attention, finding a coffee house that boasts the best gourmet coffee and tea in all the kingdoms. I order coffee and Corinne orders tea. Once we've both had a moment to breathe, I ask again, "You're a princess?" She sips her tea and shrugs, a default move I can tell is her way of trying to shake off the burden of her identity.
"Yeah, I try not to make a big deal out of it. I just want to be normal, you know?"
I pour several packets of sugar into my coffee before drinking it. "I get it, but that's kind of a big deal. Your father is King Varian?"
"Yes, but I didn't know he was coming here until now. My brothers aren't going to be happy. At least, Kai won't be."
"Right, the two princes. You have a twin, right? And an older brother?"
"Yes. They both start school with me this quarter, but Kai doesn't really get along with father. Wit does a little better, but only marginally. We'd hoped this would be a fresh start for us all, but I suppose that was too much to hope for."
"That biter back at the theater, the Inquisitor, you seemed to know each other?" Corinne frowns.
"He grew up with us after his parents were arrested for treason. He was a nice kid when he was young. It's sad what he's become."
Sad or monstrous. I don't voice my opinion, though. It's devastating seeing someone you knew as a child turn into someone like him. I'm still in mourning at what Brooke became after Apex kidnapped her and Ella. She became the monster he was, and ultimately took over his role as leader of the Zenith trafficking ring. Until Jax and I, as Nightfall, stopped her. "He looks young for a cardinal," I say, blinking back the painful memories of Brooke. "But I guess young and strong is the preference now, after so many died in the Nephilim Wars." Corinne nods, and we drink in silence for a few moments. Then she smiles.
"Oh, I nearly forgot."
She pulls 2 shirts out of her purse and hands one to me.
"I got us souvenirs from the show."
I hold the shirt up and smile. Nox Aeterna is written in silver across the chest, and on the back are large silver wings. The irony is not lost on me, and I make a mental note to show Zoran. "Thank you. This is great." She grins.
"I'm glad you like it."
We finish our drinks, enjoying the anonymity in the large city. Once we pay and leave, I tuck my hands into my pockets and look around. What do you want to do next?
I promised Wit we'd meet him back at Castle V for dinner. He's dying to meet you, but I didn't want to overwhelm you with all of us at once. I told him it was girls only. Plus, he's a total flirt, so prepare yourself. It's harmless, though, I assure you.
Corinne and I arrive at the dining hall and load up our trays. There are dozens of cheeses and breads to choose from. There are thin cuts of meat and juicy steaks, fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as an assortment of delicacies and desserts. The aromas are overwhelming. None of it appeals to me. I grab a life force and some salad, hoping the taste doesn't disgust me, and follow Corinne to our seats. A young man rests his feet on the pristine table, watching the giant e-screen at the end of the hall. Two armor-clad knights battle with swords as an announcer comments on their every move. The young man cheers as one of the knights strikes a hit, his smile wide as he sweeps the brown hair from his purple eyes.
Scarlet, this is my brother, Wit. Wit, this...
Scarlet Knight, what a pleasure.
He stands and bows, taking my hand and gently kissing it. This has never happened to me before. Wit lets go of my hand and studies me. It doesn't feel invasive, just curious.
Your eyes are truly beautiful, he says. Has anyone told you that?
A few times. He nods knowingly.
Ah, but have they written of their beauty? Have they sung of their brilliance?
He clears his throat and deepens his voice.
There once was a maiden born of the night, with silver blue eyes like diamonds dancing.
Corinne makes a dismissive gesture with her hand.
Ignore my brother. He fancies himself a ladies' man.
Wit winks and sits back down.
And the ladies fancy him.
Corinne and I take our seat across from Wit, and I begin to nibble on my food. I sip life force with every bite, so it doesn't taste horrible. Corinne devours her steak, the grease dripping down her fingers. I chuckle.
What?
Asks Corinne, her mouth stuffed full of food. Wit grins.
Scarlet has never seen the Princess of Ravens ravenous.
It's okay, I say. I guess I expected you to be more...
refined,
offers Wit.
We are when in front of cameras or important persons. We're very good at it. For most of our life, we've been refined. But...
Now we're free,
says Corinne, shoving another piece of meat in her mouth.
Not free, exactly.
Wit pops a grape into his mouth.
But since we've become initiates at Castle Viani, we're freer.
I think it's great, I say. You should live the life you want.
Maybe one day we will.
Wit leans back in his chair, folding his arms.
Do you enjoy philosophy, Scarlet?
Sure. My parents loved philosophical debates, and they never thought I was too young to participate. Wit lowers his voice.
Then, philosophically, what is your opinion of Nightfall? Is she the hero, chosen to free her people, or the monster, destined to destroy them?
Nightfall's been the talk of the city. I've tried to avoid the conversations, but I can't ignore Wit. He's a possible ally at the castle, and I need allies. Neither. She wants to give Zeniths hope, so Zeniths may save themselves.
Bombing a factory, 200 dead. Stealing an aircraft, 29 dead. That's what they've done with their hope.
I've heard his examples on the news, but couldn't remember the exact numbers. The Red Eagles and the Sons of Eden, rebels not under my control, have grown bold since Nightfall's appearance. Their methods are crude, but perhaps they could lead to greater change. Extreme measures, but how else can balance be restored? The pendulum must swing the other way before it can rest in the middle. Wit smirks.
One who is injured ought not to return the injury, for on no account can it be right to do an injustice.
I raise an eyebrow. Socrates. 2 can play that game. The only thing evil requires is for good men to do nothing.
Edmund Burke, but you're misquoting. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing.
You sure? He nods. Corinne taps my arm.
Wit has an eidetic memory. He likes to think it's his superpower.
It is, dear sister.
Right, because being able to recall the picture you drew in kindergarten is a superpower.
Wit smiles.
The ladies love it.
Corinne snorts.
Sure. Keep telling yourself that, brother. Now, let us eat in peace, please.
He nods.
First we eat, then we do everything else. MFK Fisher. You know she...
And please stop quoting,
Corinne says, holding a fork halfway to her mouth. He sighs, but stays quiet as he finishes his grapes. We are eating in silence, staring at the e-screen, when a message pops up on my e-glass.
When are you coming to train? Z.
Tonight. I send my reply using my e-band, a thin bracelet around my wrist that connects to my e-glass and allows me to text and scan information without speaking. It's useful when you don't want everyone around you hearing your conversations and messages. I begin to think of excuses for leaving the castle. I need to see how things are progressing at the cathedral, and I need to ask Zoran about Varian. People around me cheer. I realize something exciting happened on the e-screen. The announcer proclaims that the match is heating up, and the winner will qualify for the grand tournament. Wit frowns as he points at the 2 knights battling.
See how the Green Knight never attempts to strike? His defense will be the end of him. A proper offense is...
Wit suddenly stands, slapping his palm to the table.
Oh, come on! What is this?
The image of the 2 knights is replaced by a woman behind a silver desk, her blonde hair in perfect curls. We apologize for interrupting your scheduled broadcast. There has been another terrorist attack. Earlier this hour, a terrorist group known as the Red Eagles attacked an Inquisition department, stealing weapons. 2 officers have been confirmed dead, though their identities are yet to be released. This is Courtney Miller from SPQRN. Now back to your scheduled programming. The e-screen returns to the tournament, showing the announcer congratulating the Green Knight for his victory. Wit gasps.
What? How?
He flips his e-glass over his eye.
I need to rewatch this.
Corinne shakes her head.
I can't believe the Red Eagles think they're helping anyone. Killing people for weapons so they can kill more people? When does it end?
When someone wins. I slam my life force down on the table, harder than I intend.
Scarlet, you okay?
Asks Corinne. Just upset, like you. Wit flips back his e-glass and plays with his food.
If Nightfall cared about justice, she'd stop these attacks.
I squeeze the can of life force in my hand. Maybe she can't.
I wish she'd considered that sooner.
He finishes his food. He doesn't smile again. We all sit with empty or uneaten plates, scanning through e-glass messages in silence until Corinne sighs.
You all are a fun bunch. It's still early. What do you 2 want to do?
Head into town,
says Wit.
It's Thursday night, she says. Nothing in Vianney is going to be open after 5. This isn't New York City.
Then let's head to the city.
She thinks about it for a minute, then shakes her head. Maybe another day. Wit shrugs.
We could grab some booze and hang out at the arena.
Corinne groans. That's boring.
The Bard Night's always open. We can get a song or 2 in. Have a bloody swell time.
You just want to perform your new poem.
Maybe.
Wit turns to me.
Maiden, both fair and foul, please steal my heart, for it yearns.
All right, I'm in, says Corinne, if only to spare our new friend. Scarlet,
You want to come? I can't promise Wit won't drive you crazy, but there's alcohol, so that helps. I laugh. Thanks, but I think I just want some time alone tonight. I'm probably going to head back into the city and explore more of New York this weekend. Corinne drops her head, but only for a moment. I hate to spoil the night, but I have more important matters. Where will you stay? Asks Corinne. I rented an apartment in the city. Makes it easier to hang out there. And I don't have a home to go to during holidays and breaks otherwise. Oh, right. Okay then. I guess I'll see you in a few days? Definitely. I pat her shoulder, trying to cheer her up. Thanks for today. I've enjoyed it. Maybe you guys can come see my place sometime. We can hang out. Corinne nods, smiling. That would be fun. Thanks. Wit pretends to tip a hat at me.
Until we meet again, my lady.
I say goodbye and make my way outside. I head to the northeast edge of the island, where a forest of evergreens grows. I lose myself in them. Then I unleash my wings and fly. The cathedral glistens in the setting sun, the obsidian crystals glowing under the orange, red, and purple hues. It's a breathtaking sight, and for a moment I hover in the air and breathe in the stillness of the day, reveling in the beauty of color and flight that I've only just now found. My heart flutters, and a brief melancholy replaces my peace. There was a time not so long ago when I had a real home to go to. A home with parents, and a fire burning, and books to read, and a chess game with my dad always in progress, where I was loved and wanted and seen. Now, I have many places to live, but no home. Many roles to play, but nowhere I can just be me. It's a heavy burden, and I feel the weight of it as I land in the nearby forest. I overturn a loose rock, revealing a chest in the ground. Zoran placed it there for me. I open it and don the black armor inside. I put on my mask that connects to my e-glass and alters my voice. I stick an easy dye tab behind my ear and click it, turning my pale hair dark with a thick silver streak, and I walk to the cast-iron gate where a man checks for IDs. I need none, for I have my wings. He greets me with a nod, and I walk down the cobbled path, examining the work being done. A woman waves to me, then lifts a piece of obsidian and fills a hole in the wall. The wall runs around the town, and TR covered it with cameras to search for prying eyes. I walk by one of the ruined buildings, and a man nailing a floorboard stops and stares at me.
Nightfall.
He kneels and kisses the Leviathan cross hanging around his neck.
Please, grant me your blessing, darkness.
I stand still.
Why do you bow to me? I am a Nephalite, darkness.
He calls me darkness, like I'm a queen, like I'm a god. The thought sickens me.
What is your name?
Alan. He doesn't make eye contact. He runs a hand through his short black hair highlighted with a silver streak. Does he dye it to be like mine?
Why do your people worship Nephilim, Alan? You are the children of angels, darkness. There is a reason you possess abilities greater than us, a reason you are here on Earth.
I wish he would look at me.
What reason?
To lead us, darkness.
So you follow simply because I am stronger than you?
Because you exist, darkness. The Almighty would not have created beings as you if you were not meant to guide us, just as he would have not created animals if they were not meant to be our food. He believes in a hierarchy, a pyramid of power. I do not. He appears to note my silence and bows lower.
If I have offended...
You have not. He bows lower still and holds out his hand.
A blessing, darkness.
I do not believe I am a god, but I believe in hope, so I touch his hand with mine. My blessings upon you, Alan. They are the best words I can find in me to give, but they seem enough. Alan smiles and returns to work, driving nails into wood faster than before. I walk into the cathedral, which has been painted the colors of the twilight court, one half gold, the other black. I take the stairs toward voices that grow louder as I approach, and let myself into the room we've set aside as our meeting place. The war room. Inside, Zoran, TR, and Trix sit at a large round table made of one solid piece of wood. It is chipped from years of use, and carries in its body the stories of many before us. We dubbed it, fittingly enough, the war table. A fire crackles beside my generals, filling the space with the scent of pine. They've added a red carpet to the room to cut down the chill and echo of the stone floors, but there's more work to do. Spider webs still hang in the corners, and old paintings, covered in layers of dust, still hang on the walls. Zoran taps his pale fingers on the table. Unlike me, he wears no mask. His entire life is devoted to the Dark Templars.
We need more Nephilim.
TR snickers. His dark blonde hair is messy, and a growth of stubble on his chin proves he hasn't shaved in days.
How will you control them? What if one of them goes out on their own and creates an army? Without Nephilim,
Zoran says,
we don't stand a chance against the Orders.
TR glares across the table.
I've fought the Orders for years.
Zoran raises his voice, scowling.
And look how much you've accomplished.
TR jumps out of his chair and slams his fist on the table.
If you create more Nephilim, you'll be the death of this rebellion. The death of this rebellion?
Zoran laughs.
The death of this rebellion will be the men and women you're letting move in outside the cathedral. They're fixing houses, putting up fences. Is this our base of operations or a summer retreat?
Trix sighs, swiping the red hair from her face. We're only allowing a few dozen trusted people to move in. None of them will leak our location.
When they are tortured, they will talk,
Zoran says softly. Some of them have been tortured before, I can assure you. Enough. I don't say it loudly, but they freeze and stare at me. I march up to the table and face Zoran. I'm tired of this bickering. The people stay. If we are to inspire hope, we need to be seen. The Nephilim have returned. The people need to know we fight for them. Everyone has tablets in front of them displaying maps of New York City and Italy. The e-screen on the wall shows those same maps, and I study them. And TR is right. We can't create more Nephilim. Not while we're still organizing. Zoran shakes his head, pushing back his black hair.
When the Orders come for you, and they will come, you will want Nephilim to stand beside you. Not a few humans and zeniths.
I step forward, towering over him as I stand. No new Nephilim. He grits his jaw, his blue eyes fierce, but then bows his head, resigned. I turn to Trix. Have you received any messages from the other rebel groups? She nods and sips from a gold cup. The drink is red. Smells like wine. We've received messages, all right, but they aren't good, Anne. No one wants to meet you. I expected some to decline, but not all. I thought a few would appreciate how I destroyed the aircraft when I confronted Ragathon. I'd hoped others would at least be curious to meet a Nephilim. Did they give a reason? If she couldn't save the Zeniths, then what good is she? I told them you secured my escape. It didn't help. If we had been able to save those Zeniths before they were executed, so much would be different. But I can't think of what may have happened. I can only think of what must happen next. Contact them again, I say. Tell them I have outsmarted Ragathon, Grand Master of the Inquisition, once before. And when I do so again, with their help, It will be to end the Inquisition. Trix whistles.
Big words, Anne.
Too big,
says TR.
The Red Eagles and Sons of Eden will think you're bluffing.
I'm not. Tell them.
Trix nods. All right, Anne. But if you ask me, you need to focus on something smaller first. Something that can show the leaders you can win this war.
She's got a point. I'll have to make a list of possible small victories that could draw the leaders' attention. I need them to help end the Inquisition. But first, I need them to stop their daily attacks. They are foolish, and innocents are dying.
More Nephilim would draw their attention.
Zorin sips from a silver cup. The drink is also red, but it's not wine. The scent stirs my hunger. I rein it in. We won't create new Nephilim, but we can search for old ones. I point at Zorin. You were kept alive. There must be others. A door behind me creaks. A parched voice speaks.
You will find none.
I spin, drawing my mother's sword. An old man, cloaked in black, a thick shackle on each wrist, stands before me.
You will find none,
he says,
except me.
Chapter 3. The Ways of Nyx. Zorin puts a hand on my shoulder.
I know him,
he says.
His name is Carter. He served me, long ago. He can be trusted.
I don't trust anyone. Not since my parents ripped apart my life with secrets. What are you doing here? I ask Carter. The man frowns at my hostility.
I thought I was the last, but then I saw you on the networks. I wish to help.
His eyes are gentle. If he's a Nephilim, then he's on our side. He must be. Show me your wings.
I'm afraid I can't.
What do you mean?
Nightfall.
Zorin squeezes my shoulder.
He is Nephilim. It's all right, Zorin,
says Carter, and Zorin lets go.
I can't show you my wings, because I don't have them. They were taken from me.
Such a thing is possible? How?
Nightfall.
Zorin tilts his head at Trix and TR.
There are things we don't discuss outside our kind. Weaknesses we do not divulge.
TR frowns.
Are we enemies now?
Not yet,
growls Zorin.
I don't care about your weaknesses.
TR relaxes in his chair, waving his hand dismissively.
If I wanted you dead, you would be.
Zorin chuckles.
I would crush your bones and cut the eyes from your sockets.
TR smirks.
I've killed Nephilim before. I can do it again.
There is silence. This information is new. TR stands and walks up to Zorin, poking him in the chest with his finger.
I'm here because of Nightfall. I know that Zeniths and Nephilim are people. I know they needed to be treated like people. But I also know that not all people are equal. So if you get in my way, I'll put a bullet in your head.
He waits, and Zorin says nothing. TR walks out, slamming the door closed. I want to follow him, ask about his past, but he needs to cool off first. Carter clears his throat.
Perhaps I'll return later.
No, I say. Walk with me. I lead him out the room, down the stairs, and we walk the cobbled paths together. Your wings were taken. How? I ask. He frowns, his pale face creasing.
Long ago, I was an Emzara.
I raise an eyebrow. Emzara?
A soldier of the Twilight Throne.
He explains.
I fought many battles. I killed many people. One day, I could kill no more. There was a limit to sin, and I had reached mine. I was asked to burn down a church. I could not. Of course, I was captured and sentenced to be executed. Zorin defended me. My sentence was changed. My wings were taken. I do not know the process. And I was ordered to serve Zorin.
So he became your master?
At first. And later he became a friend.
His eyes turn fierce.
I would do anything for Andrei Zorin.
I point at the thick shackles he wears on each wrist. What are those?
A reminder of my sins,
he says, jangling them.
When you live as long as I, it is easy to forget.
I stop near the gate, turning to face him. We have many warriors here. It's time we are joined by someone gentler. He smiles, bowing.
I have served Zorin many years. I look forward to serving you.
I nod. You may stay at the cathedral. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must retire for the night.
Before you do,
he says,
may I offer a word of advice?
You may.
Before you seek to challenge the orders, you must unite the people here. Your commanders may quarrel, but they must not quarrel needlessly.
I nod. He refers to Zorin and TR. They are like the other rebel groups, torn apart by different methods, even when their goal is the same. I must unite them all, or see everything we've built crumble. I have private quarters at the cathedral, in a wing that Zorin and I alone share. My room is large, spacious, and adjacent to a study. I open the heavy wooden door and step in, closing it behind me. A king-sized 4-poster bed made of deep mahogany sits in the middle, with matching dressers to each side. A fire is crackling in the hearth facing my bed, and I realize Zorin must have been in here to light it, so I would feel more comfortable. The thoughtful gesture fills me with sudden emotion, a blend of gratitude and profound loneliness. How is it that kindness can sometimes make us feel more alone? A large wardrobe takes up part of the wall to the right, and a trunk sits at the foot of my bed. It is made of jade, with the tree of life carved into it. The walls are a dark cream, and ancient paintings, depicting scenes of Nephilim in flight, of sunsets and sunrises, of the beauty of nature, are strategically placed on the exposed walls. It is a room I can feel comfortable in. My study is through a set of double doors to the right, and I have a private bathing chamber to the left with a sunken clawfoot tub. I walk into the bathroom and stare into the mirror. I do not recognize myself when I am Nightfall. I see only a symbol, an idea. I do not see the girl I was. I turn away and notice a basket perched by the bathtub. It is filled with oils, bath salts, and body scrubs. Zorin again? I smile, peel off my Nightfall mask, and turn the water to hot. Tonight, I will be myself. Tonight, for just a few hours, I will rest. The next morning, I find Zorin on the cathedral roof overlooking our budding town. He sits, his legs hanging off the edge, the golden sun lighting up his face. He looks more sunrise than nightfall in this light. I walk up beside him and study the dark clouds in the distance. Thank you for the gifts you left in my room. He doesn't look at me when he responds.
I know you miss home. I just want you to feel some small amount of peace here, if that's possible.
Do you? I ask.
Do I what?
feel any amount of peace here.
When you've lived as long as I, peace becomes an illusion.
He looks up at me, his blue eyes full of secrets.
Enjoy what peace you can find while you can.
I blink, then look away. I haven't given much thought to what it will be like living forever. Sometimes I'm not sure I'll survive any of this, so why worry about a future that might not be? After all, even immortals can be killed. Do you worry the angel will return for you? I ask, thinking of how long he survived in a half-dead state, hidden, trapped, imprisoned. Would death have been kinder? He shrugs.
No point in worrying about what you can't control.
He leans back, letting his elbows rest on the roof.
Out of curiosity, what will you do if you ever find the angel who killed your parents?
Kill it, I say without hesitation. My path to vengeance, to justice, may not be a straight line. I might have bigger goals now. I chose to save Zeniths trafficked by Apex rather than follow a lead to find the angel who destroyed my life. I would make that decision again, choosing to save the innocent above seeking vengeance. My parents would want nothing less. But that doesn't mean I've given up hope that someday I will have closure, that someday I will get justice for my family.
No. After.
He places his finger gently on my chin and lifts, so that our eyes meet.
After you exact your revenge, then what?
I pause. I've never thought about it before. I try to imagine a life after my revenge is complete. I can't.
Zoran smiles. If all you care about is the angel, why create the Dark Templars?
For my parents.
Were they secret rebels too?
No.
Then why?
Because I've seen injustice, and I will end it.
Because you know what is right?
No. I soften my voice. But I believe more than one person should decide. He nods.
Remember those words when you find your angel.
You think the angel should live?
I just wonder whether you'll give it a trial or play judge and jury.
I know he intends to challenge me, to broaden my way of thinking, but it's still irritating. Whose side are you on?
Yours,
he says, his smile fading, his hand falling from my face.
Always yours, Scarlet.
He leans closer to me and speaks more quietly.
I traveled with a prince once. His father, the king, disowned him when he was a boy. "No weakling is a son of mine," he said. So the prince vowed to grow strong and one day return and destroy his father. For years he traveled, collecting mercenaries, bandits, thieves, until he was no longer a boy. "I'm not ready," he said. "I need a castle of my own," he said. He did not pillage or burn. He marched his army to the castle of a warlord, one known for terrorizing the countryside, and forced him to surrender before his might. As the prince took his new throne, his right-hand man informed him that his father, the king, had passed away in his sleep. The prince felt rage, for he had failed at his revenge. And then he felt hollow, for he realized it didn't matter. And he felt happy, for he realized he had stopped a warlord and turned criminals into an army. For him, that was enough.
I frown, so my vengeance will feel hollow.
Vengeance is powerful,
but it is not justice.
It can be both. He shakes his head.
It cannot.
Why?
Motivation.
I remember the angel bashing in my father's skull. I have enough.
But what kind? Good men steal. Bad men steal. Good men kill. Bad men kill. What is the difference between good and bad, right and wrong, if not motivation?
Should I forget the angel? I cannot. I have tried. I expect him to chuckle at my resistance, as he often does. Instead, he turns his face from me and stares at the horizon.
If the prince had forgotten his father, would he have accomplished as much as he had?
No. He would have grown complacent in an easy life.
And instead he became a great man. What would he have become if he had killed his father?
I don't know. I have never killed with my own hands, and would never outside of self-defense. You worry about who I will become, I say. He doesn't answer for a while. When he does, his eyes are full of sorrow.
I've made many mistakes, Scarlet. I pray you are not one of them.
Zoran and I watch the sun rise in companionable silence. It is a uniquely intimate moment, our legs and arms brushing gently against each other as we share in the birth of another day. He reaches for my hand, placing his over mine. I don't move, don't pull away. I allow this one small connection. Because in the entire world, in the whole of our lives, Zoran and I have only each other. He alone knows the whole truth of who I am. I alone am made from his blood and can share in flight with him. And somehow, we also share in our pain, in our losses. I don't know all his stories, and my stories are fewer. But you don't need words to share pain. As the sky warms, Zoran shifts, and I know the moment is over. He pulls his hand away and smiles at me.
Would you like to see the progress we have made while you toil away at Castelviani?
I smile back. Very much. He escorts me inside the catacombs under the cathedral. Blue lanterns light the gray walls of the spacious tunnels. We enter a circular clearing where a man and woman spar with swords. The woman throws sand at the man, blinding him, and then lands a strike to his ribs.
I've been training some of the Dark Templars, says Zoran. Some show more promise than you.
I nudge his arm and he winks at me, his mouth turning up in a small grin. We continue on through a tunnel and enter a different clearing. Here the roof has been torn open, allowing sunlight to pour in. The night raven, covered in dirt, sits in the center. Zoran points at the opening above.
Eventually, we'll install a door you can control remotely.
Trix slides out from under the aircraft, wiping dust from her hands. She studies a bolt in her palm, then throws it aside. Stupid piece of metal. What are you doing? I ask. I hope it's not tearing apart my billion-dollar aircraft. Upgrading. Trix pets the night raven like it's a puppy, putting me at ease. Some of these parts are old. Sure, they still work well, but not top of the line anymore. You know? The night raven is new. New official military aircraft, yes, but they're making better prototypes now. See what I'm saying? I nod. How do you know so much about planes? Planes, tanks, cars, you name it, my mom taught me how to fix it. She walks over to a workstation and grabs a wrench. You know, if it wasn't for the war, I could be sitting somewhere with a wrench in one hand and a beer in the other. TR walks in and tosses her a beer. Well, says Trix, smiling,
It's sunnier where I imagine.
The war stopped her from doing what she loved. I'd been lucky. My daily life was not affected by the wars that raged. I wonder if my Templar parents made sure of that. Were you conscripted? I ask.
Nah.
Trix opens the beer and takes a sip.
But TR and I couldn't sit around and let others do all the fighting.
TR nods. He looks more relaxed since last night. But when his eyes meet Zoran's, both men grit their jaws. Before things can escalate again, I tell Trix good work, and with a slight push of my wings, I jump out of the open ceiling, landing on a patch of grass to the side of the cathedral. Zoran lands at my side. You will cooperate with him, I say, walking back to the cathedral.
He killed Nephilim.
And you've never killed? He stays silent as he keeps pace with me. I smile. You and TR are more similar than you think. You'll both do whatever it takes to win. I raise an eyebrow at him. And if I knew you better, perhaps I would notice more similarities. He chuckles.
So you want to know about me?
Yes. Tell me more about your life.
When you have thousands of years to choose from, it's hard to pick what to share.
Then tell me about your week. I stop near a large white rock and sit on it, emulating Rodin's Thinker. Zoran rolls his eyes.
I did some research to catch up on the times. Learned the new pope likes tournaments.
New?
Well, new for me. How about you? How was your week?
I shake my head. We're still on you. He sighs, then speaks rapidly.
I started the week buying more marshmallows. Then I painted part of the cathedral. Then I had a snack. About midweek, everyone was asleep, and I considered getting a dog for company. But then I thought about the smell and the poop, and I thought, what if I ever get hungry? Would I really be able to resist? So, I decided no dog. That enough?
I grin. For now.
Now your turn.
He pulls a bag of marshmallows from his cloak and starts snacking. I jump off the rock and grab one for myself. I saw a play. Nox Aeterna.
Oh, yes, I've seen it. Not particularly historically accurate.
That's what my roommate said.
Who's your roommate?
Princess Corinne of the House of Ravens. He freezes mid-bite.
That's a dangerous roommate to have.
It gets better. Her father's coming to New York to capture Nightfall. He hides the marshmallow bag back in his cloak.
You might have considered leading with that this morning,
he says through clenched jaws. And miss the sunset? He scowls at me.
If Varian is coming here, we must be extra careful. I've seen him fight. You are not ready for him.
After my news, Zoran insists on training right away, and he wonders why I waited to tell him. We head to the cathedral's training room. It is a huge space with tall ceilings and an open center, like a ballroom carved from obsidian. I don't know what the room was originally intended for, but the Dark Templars have made good use of it. It's now stocked with weapon racks and training dummies. Zoran tosses me a practice sword and tells me to repeat the way of Nyx. I take my position for the first form and move through the steps with ease. After 20 minutes, I sigh. Zoran, I need to fight. To fly.
You need to practice your form.
I've done it 1,000,000 times. Can't I learn the other 6 now?
I know I sound like a petulant child, but it's like being back with Mirden, sitting still for hours on end, just thinking. When will I finally get to the actual combat training? He rubs his head as he reclines on a golden bench.
Trust me, I know what's best. You need to learn patience. You're an immortal now. Stop acting like a whiny human girl.
I groan and continue the drill. At least I can keep it interesting by talking. New subject. I need your help with something. I need an apartment in the city. My new friends at school were getting suspicious about me leaving, and I needed a cover. Carter walks in with a cup of water and a can of Life Force for each of us.
I'm happy to set that up for you, miss. Is there a particular part of the city you'd prefer?
I look at Zoran. He shrugs. I take the water and sip. I don't know. Someplace fun, artsy. Someplace my friends would believe I would pick. Carter bows.
Consider it done. You will have your keys by the end of the weekend.
Thanks. That's handy. I suppose I could use my family's estate as my getaway home, but it's too far outside the city and far too big to maintain by myself. If I'm going to keep that property in livable shape, I'd need a staff, and I don't have the energy to think of that right now. Carter returns upstairs and I continue training. To keep the conversation going, I ask a question I've been curious about since finding out what I am. How do you turn someone into Nephilim? He pauses.
You should be focusing on your drill.
I am. Indulge me. Isn't learning about our kind an important part of our training? Especially for someone who wants to make more Nephilim? He narrows his eyes at me, but I know I have him.
Fine. First, the person must be drained of blood.
So you feed from them?
Yes, but if they lost blood another way, say, an injury, that would suffice.
I stop my training for a moment. Did you have to feed off me?
Yes, you were bleeding out, but I needed to speed up the process. There was an angel there, after all.
I resume the drill, performing a block, then a strike. What next?
You feed the person your blood, usually by cutting open your wrist. The Nephilim blood replaces the human, and the person begins to change.
How long does it take?
It's different for everyone, but it often takes a while to awaken.
I remember waking to find the angel gone, my parents dead. I finish my form, a thought occurring to me. Zoran, if you knew where I could find the angel, would you tell me? His face is cold.
I'd tell you what you needed to know.
I'm fairly certain he never had a true lead on the angel while we were hunting Apex. But if he did, and I missed my chance, it's a thought that has consumed me. I need important news, Scarlet, says Evie. Show me. I stop my form and flip my e-glass over my eye. An image of an apartment building surrounded by bruisers and officers appears. The reporter speaks. As you can see, the Zeniths have taken everyone in the building hostage, and the Inquisition has the area surrounded. The terrorists don't seem to be part of a known group. We don't know if any demands have been made. I stop the video and message TR and Trix, looping them and Zoran into the video feed. We need to rescue the hostages, I say over the e-glass.
We can't go against Zeniths,
TR replies.
Not publicly. Let the orders handle it.
I don't trust them. If Inquisition messes this up, both hostages and Zeniths will die. Trix speaks through the e-glass. One of our guys has eyes on the area. Looks like the Zeniths have snipers at the windows. There's no way in. Zoran is silent and watches me with guarded eyes as I put my practice sword away and walk out of the training room. I'll find one. I tell them my plan.
You can't save everyone,
says TR. He's wrong. I can save them all. Chapter 4. The Red Eagles. I wonder if this is my fault. If the terrorists were inspired by my threats at the Zenith's execution. I was bluffing, but the world didn't know. From now on, I must be more careful with my words. Trix meets me in the sewers. TR and Zoran position themselves in the building across from the terrorists. We will convince their leader to free the hostages. If that fails, we'll free them ourselves. I pinch my nose as I trudge through water and filth. Trix chuckles. What's the matter, Anne? Not used to the sewers? The smell is unpleasant. The smell is horrible, but I'm trying to act composed. Why don't you just fly over it? I can, but Trix can't. And right now, I need to build camaraderie. I need her to see I'm willing to get dirty like the rest of them. I like walking, don't you? Sure, N. I'd rather walk than fly any day. The sarcasm is thick. We share a smile. Are we almost there? I ask. She checks her e-glass. 5 feet away. I raise my eyebrow, though it's hidden under my mask. You say feet when I would say meters. Why don't you use the universal system? She shrugs. My mom and I worked on a lot of old vehicles, used a lot of old parts. 1/4-inch bolts, 12-foot tape measures. That's what I know. My family was... I debate how much to tell her. My family was modern. We were plebeian. We lived in a small town, away from big cities. But my mom was a tech genius and kept her technology fairly up to date. Tech genius, huh? That explains a lot. Sounds like our moms were pretty awesome. I stop walking. Yeah, she was. What happened to her? She fought a battle she couldn't win. She grips my shoulder. I'm sorry, N. I try to keep my emotions buried. This is not the time. I start walking again. We've all lost things. It doesn't make it easier. How'd you deal with it, when your mother passed? My mother's still out there. Oh, sorry. I never imagine her with living parents. When I see the Dark Templars, I see people like me, with nothing to lose. Perhaps I am wrong. Don't be sorry, N. My mom and we haven't seen each other since the war. She didn't like that I volunteered. She was looking out for you. You were looking out for others. She stares down the tunnel. Her eyes are distant. Yeah, I suppose. I know I said I joined to help the soldiers. It's what I tell everyone. But really, I joined for a boy. I want to ask what she means, when Evie speaks into my ear. Scarlet, you are in position. Thanks, Evie. I turn to Trix. Time to do your thing. Trix grins. She flips her automatic rifle over her shoulder and jumps. She flies higher than any human, and thrusts her open hand against the ceiling. A ring of red explodes from her palm, turning the stone into lava and then ash. It happens in the blink of an eye. I've never seen her powers in full force before. I'm glad she's on my side. As Trix falls back down, so does the white dust, revealing a hole that leads inside the steel building. We both jump through it and land in a wide hallway. Trix grabs her rifle and scans the area. We're clear. Evie, hack the cameras. She does, showing me images from the different rooms. The hostages are all in one location, surrounded by 10 zeniths. The terrorists wear thick blue armor, military grade, making them look more machine than human. Where did they get the gear? The top level is dark, the windows covered in metal. A lantern on the ground lights one side, casting the shadow of someone sitting alone. I can't make out the details, but this must be their leader. Trix points her rifle at the double doors before us. What's the plan, Anne? We request a meeting. Evie, the military helmets will be equipped with e-glasses. See if you can contact one. Tell them Nightfall wishes to meet their leader. N, they're here, Trix says. What? 2 armed zeniths, their armor so large they tower over us, enter through the doors. How could they get here so fast? There were no zeniths near us. Unless... The cameras have been tampered with, I say. Trix grits her jaw, finger on the trigger and ready to shoot. I raise a hand, gesturing her to hold. One of the zeniths speaks. He sounds as if he's speaking through a radio.
Nightfall, we are here to escort you to our leader. He is very eager to speak with you.
I don't like this. Someone is anticipating my actions. But I don't have a better plan. We have many things to discuss. The zenith tilts his gun at Trix.
You must come alone.
I will, but my companion must not be harmed.
Very well.
I step forward. A voice speaks through my e-glass. It sounds manipulated.
Don't go with them, Nightfall.
Who is this?
Call me Crixus, leader of the Red Eagles.
2 shots explode from behind us, hitting the Zeniths in the head. They collapse, and I turn to see 2 people in the same heavy armor. But unlike the Zeniths, their armor is black. A red eagle is painted across their chests. The voice in my ear continues.
These are 2 of my soldiers. You can trust them. They will escort you out of the building.
No, I need to save the hostages. The voice sighs.
My contacts have informed me this is a trap. If you stay, you will be captured.
Trix moves her gun from one soldier to the other. En, what's going on? Why are the Red Eagles here? They want to help, I tell Trix. I speak into my e-glass. Why? I ask Crixus.
You and I share an enemy. We can be very useful to each other.
Why are you contacting me now?
Because trust is a rare thing in our line of work, and I want you to trust me, Nightfall. So please, accept my help.
I've waited eagerly for contact from another rebel leader, but I never imagined it would happen like this. I want to establish an alliance with Crixus, but I can't accept his offer. I can't let people die. I will free the hostages.
Very well,
says Crixus.
My soldiers will depart. But remember, I offered help in a time of need.
His signal ends. The soldiers turn and disappear around a corner. Trix keeps her gun at the ready. I have my hand on my sword. There have been too many surprises today. Evie, how did Crixus contact me? He hacked your e-glass. I shudder. I thought Evie's security was unbreakable. I'll have to figure out a way to upgrade her. This can't happen again. Trix grabs my shoulder, startling me. En, you still want to do this. What if their leader doesn't want to listen? I smile to put her at ease. I can be very convincing. Not if they put a bullet in your head. We have no other choice. I know, but this doesn't feel right. I know. I tap my e-glass. Evie, contact them. What shall I say about their 2 dead men? I shrug. Tell them to check their cameras. I had nothing to do with it. I seek a peaceful solution. Very well. I've made contact. I check the cameras. 4 armed Zeniths enter an elevator, heading towards us. So not all the video feeds have been edited. I can use that. They're on their way, I say. Evie, loop the video from here to the room adjacent to the hostages, but keep my feed original. Trix, take position. Be ready for Plan B. Okay, En. Be careful. She holds my eyes for a moment, then disappears past the doors. A moment later, the Zeniths arrive. In case their orders are to shoot me on sight, I'm ready to unleash my wings and charge them. Faced with the possibility of battle, I'm wishing I'd trained harder with Zorin. I pray my sword skills are enough to win. I don't get to find out. The Zeniths surround me in a square and escort me to the elevator. One of them asks,
"Where's the other one?"
I speak casually. She left. We don't speak again. The elevator stops at the top floor, and the Zeniths lead me to a door at the end of the hall. According to my e-glass, this is the dark room with fortified windows. Evie informs me that Trix is in position. I tap out a message to TR on my e-band. You have eyes on Trix? He responds.
Have eyes on her and the hostages.
Zorin should be right beside him. I hope they can cooperate long enough for us to succeed. I message him. Don't act without my command. The situation is delicate. He responds vocally.
If it's between you and the hostages, I'll choose you.
I appreciate his response, but my life shouldn't matter more than others. The Zeniths open the door and gesture me to enter. I do, and they close the door behind me, leaving me in near darkness. The floor is tiled marble. The room is large, but empty except for the lantern and the man. He sits cross-legged, his back to me. His breathing is deep and slow, and I feel it radiating through the room. His hair is dark brown and pulled into a ponytail. When he stands, I realize he is a head taller than me, if not more. His body is thick and muscled. Black and gold armor encases his body, and it's not like the armor of the others. It's thinner, shaped for his figure. It's the armor of a knight, of a king. As he turns, the light catches his black cape and reveals a golden raven. "Varian!" I say, jumping back, my heart pounding. He grins. His voice is deep and his purple eyes penetrating.
"You wanted to talk, so let us talk."
I can't talk. I can't think. This is the man who matched Nyx in combat, the man who ended the Nephilim War, and he's here to end me. I yell into my e-glass, "Trix, get the hostages out! Now!" I watch her through my e-glass. She turns a wall into ash and jumps in, firing her rifle. Evie switches the camera, showing me the next room. Trix shoots down 2 armored zeniths. A third collapses, shot down by TR. The 8 hostages are on their knees, heads down, arms behind their backs. A zenith terrorist threatens to kill one. His helmet shatters from a sniper rifle bullet. Zoran speaks through my e-glass.
"Scarlet, what's wrong? What happened?"
My voice trembles. "It's Varian. He's here. Save Trix and get everyone out!"
"Run, Scarlet! I'm coming!"
I will my body to move. Everything feels slow. I fly toward the door, and Varian draws one of his blades. It extends, turning into a whip. He snaps it forward. The whip grabs my ankle and pulls me back. I slam into the ground. My head pounds as everything speeds up again. I untie the whip and crawl back to my feet. Varian does not move. His blade recoils, turning solid once again. He has an e-glass and seems to be watching the fight going on below. He must have bypassed Evie's looping footage.
"I wondered if you would choose to rescue them."
On my e-glass, TR and Trix take out 2 more terrorists. No, 2 more soldiers. I draw my sword and face Varian. "You'd use innocence to lure me? You'd lie to your people?" He chuckles.
"The people are pawns, and I their king. I will manipulate them again and again to win. But innocence, Nightfall, you disappoint me."
What's he talking about? The truth of it hits me in the gut. The hostages aren't innocent. They can be criminals or... No! Trix! Get out of there! I'm too late. Varian whispers something into his e-glass, and the hostages rise, drawing pistols from under their clothing. They aim at Trix. She shoots one down. A soldier smacks the back of her head with his baton. She falls to her knees. All 10 remaining soldiers aim at her. There were never any hostages. "Stop!" I yell. "Don't hurt her!" Varian whispers an order, and the soldiers hold their fire.
"Wouldn't it be sad if Trix never saw her mother again?"
he asks. His knowledge stuns me. You bugged the sewers. Because of how I rescued the Shadow of Rome. You knew I'd use them again. He smiles.
"Finally, you're thinking. Tell me, what happens next?"
My mind rushes through the possibilities. There's only one. I surrender.
"That's it?"
He shakes his head.
"You are nothing compared to Nyx."
His answer surprises me. He wanted a challenge, and I gave none. I'd been playing a game, only to find out I barely know the rules. Zoran was right. I was never ready for this. Varian taps his e-glass.
Execute the shadow of Rome on my command.
No, please, I'll come with you.
His voice is cold.
You will come with me, and the shadow of Rome will die.
TR pleads into my ear.
Nightfall, you need to do something. You need to save her.
I charge at Varian with my sword. He blocks me and knocks me back. I barely feel the blows, barely register them at all. He's so fast. I can't fight him. I drop to my knees. Please, let her go. Varian ignores me. On my e-glass, a soldier presses a gun to Trix's head. TR screams in my ear.
We're here because of you, Nightfall. Do something! Do something!
Something dark shatters through the glass. It hits the soldier, slamming him into the wall and away from Trix. The others try to fire at it. They cannot. The darkness glides through the room, cutting down soldier after soldier in an instant. The darkness is death. The darkness is Zoran. He saves Trix, because I asked him to. I smile, a tear running down my face. Varian sneers.
He's here.
He steps toward me.
Let's see how long you last.
I fly for the door out of instinct. His whip catches me again. I talk into the e-glass. Leave me! Leave me, or we're all dead! Varian stands over me. I can see his purple eyes. There's no ruthlessness, only calculation. He lifts his sword. I clutch the token of strife around my neck. I won't give up. I jump at him, trying to grab him, trying to use my powers. Varian's sword flashes in front of me and cuts off my hand. I collapse, frozen. My hand lays before me, pale, limp, bloody. I scream. Varian strikes. He doesn't hit me. He stops halfway. Why? And then I see it. The ground below him is turning red. He jumps up as it burns into ash, as Zoran flies through the dust. His dark sword crashes against Varian's blade. They land and dash across the room, never standing still, weaving around each other. Their battle looks simple, elegant, but I know it is a dance of death. My vision grows fuzzy. Zoran and Varian become blurs, black fighting against gold. Someone kneels before me. Trix. She notices my hand and gasps. I don't respond. She shakes me. En, we need to go. She's right. I stand up, leaning against her. We walk over to the barricaded window, and she uses her abilities to burn open a hole. En, you need to fly us out of here. My strength is fading, but I have enough. I unleash my wings. I grab Trix and step to the edge. But I can't leave. Zoran. He'll follow us. En, we need to go. Now! No. Varian and Zoran are matched. Zoran won't be able to escape. He'll fight until more soldiers arrive, and then he'll lose. I need to do something. Evie, hack into all the e-screens and networks. Play my conversation with Varian to the people. Loop it. Get it everywhere you can. I see 2 screens from where I stand. Both change to an image of Varian from my vantage point. The speakers boom through the city. You'd use innocence to lure me? You'd lie to your people? I ask in the video. Varian chuckles. There is no sympathy in his voice or on his cold face.
The people are pawns, and I their king. I will manipulate them again and again to win.
The video loops. People on the streets yell in protest. And Varian hesitates. It's only a split second, but it's enough. Zorin pulls away from the battle. He grabs Trix and me, and he carries us into the sky. Everything grows dark. Chapter 5. King Varian. I awake on a soft bed in a dimly lit room. I'm dressed in a white linen gown. Someone removed my armor and changed my clothing. I shiver at the idea of a stranger's hands on me. But my mask is still on, so perhaps not a stranger. I'm at the cathedral. I came here when... My memories come rushing back and bile rises in my throat. I raise my hand. The hand Varian cut off. I cringe, expecting a bloody bandage. There is none. My hand is still there. I gasp, studying the lines of my palm, the length of my nails, rubbing my hands together again and again. It's mine, but it's not. It's missing the scar left by Apex the night he kidnapped my best friends. The scar that still itched from the poison that nearly killed me. The scar I made the orders leave when I went through my gen mod, as a reminder. I stare down at the perfect skin and wonder about that scar. About this hand that shouldn't be.
It grew back,
says Zorin. I hadn't noticed him, but he sits to my side, his eyes hazy. A tube runs from his wrist to mine. He's giving me blood. He is pale, more so than usual. His eyelids droop over his blue eyes, with sunken dark circles under them. His body is slack from exhaustion. I process these signs slowly as my mind wakes up. Zorin is giving me too much of his blood. It's costing him. I look back down at my new hand, still stunned. After Jax... I'm about to say after Jax cut my throat, but I can't. He didn't know I was Scarlet. He didn't mean to hurt me. After the Zenith's execution, my throat healed, but I didn't expect to regenerate an entire limb. Zorin smiles slightly.
As long as you're alive and have blood, you will heal.
I wonder how hard Nephilim are to kill. I feel rejuvenated. Not like someone who just lost her hand, just battled her most dangerous enemy and nearly died. Zorin, however, looks worse than ever. How long was I out for? I ask.
11 hours.
I glance at the dark window, moonlight peeking through. And you've been giving me blood the whole time?
My blood is the most effective.
I tighten the clasp on the tube and remove the needle from my wrist. Zorin moves to stop me, but I easily push him away. He sighs, slumping in his golden chair. I pull the sheets off and stand, and I remember someone changed my clothes. I am in Zorin's bed, in his room. I raise an eyebrow at the tired Nephilim next to me. Perhaps he needed to check for wounds. But since I heal so well, perhaps he didn't. Thank you for the dress.
I wanted you to be comfortable,
he says, grinning. Part of me wants to smack him with his own pillow, but a larger part of me is grateful. I touch his hand, smiling. You saved my life. I expect him to smile in return, but he trembles. His eyes are hazy.
I wasn't sure I could fight him. I wasn't...
He begins to mumble. I look around. I've been in his room before, but haven't had need to rummage through it. His bed is large, ornate, like mine. The bedding is a dark blue, the wood in his room matching mahogany. Where do you keep your life force? Do you have any blood? Zorin doesn't answer. He's too far gone. I throw open the closets and pull the dresser drawers open, looking for anything that will help. I find clothes, journals, old books, memorabilia from times long since lost, but still no life force. I rush into his adjacent study. We have the same floor plan, it would seem, and in his desk I find what I need. I run back to him carrying as many cans of life force as I can hold. I hand one to him, but the can slips from his grasp. I feel my heart fluttering in panic. Zoran? Zoran? He still doesn't respond. I pick up the can, shaking so much it takes me 3 tries to open it, and help Zoran drink. I have to pry open his jaw and pour it into his mouth before he finally chokes it down. At first, it spills out, splashing on us both, and I wonder how much is even getting into him. But after a moment, he jerks, grabbing my wrist and pulling the drink closer as he swallows, drinking more deeply. He finishes the can and opens his eyes. I slump in relief and hand him another can, which he drinks just as quickly. By the 3rd can, he starts to look more like himself. He sets the can down and sits up.
Thank you, Scarlet.
I sit on the bed across from him so we are eye to eye. I wouldn't be here without you. I was careless. I'm used to going up against Ragathon, but Varian is different. He thinks like no one I've ever met. He outmaneuvered me at every turn.
Not at the end, says Zoran. Hackers are still playing your video on the net.
I got lucky. He could have killed me in an instant, but he didn't. He must have had to take me alive. I've never seen anyone fight like him. I meet his eyes. I've never seen anyone fight like you. He frowns, but only for a moment.
I've had many teachers, and a long time to study.
I'm sorry I haven't been a better student, I say, looking down as I recall my own impatience. I will practice what you tell me. I will work harder. Zoran clasps my shoulder, raising my chin to look at him.
You will learn to fight, and one day, maybe you will even beat Varian. But remember, it is your wits that will win this war.
I feel his hand tremble. You're afraid of Varian, aren't you? He pulls his hands back, his eyes drifting off.
It would be foolish not to be. But as long as we don't let fear stop us, we can still fight.
He stands carefully and walks toward the door.
When you're ready, we'll have a meeting downstairs. Your armor is in there.
He points at a black and gold chest in the corner.
I had it cleaned.
I smile. Thanks. And then, something comes to me. There has only been one person to ever match Varian in combat. A Nephilim with a sword black as night. Nyx? Zoran pauses.
What about him?
I thought, maybe... He chuckles, opening the door.
Haven't you seen the play?
He asks softly.
Nyx is dead.
Dressed in my armor, I march downstairs and to the war room. Trix notices me first. She jumps from her chair at the table and runs up to hug me. How you feeling, Anne? I have a new hand, I say, waving it. Hey, we could all use some new parts from time to time, right? Right. I hug her again and whisper in her ear, I'm sorry for what happened. She pushes me away, grinning. Don't be. I know what I'm getting myself into. Besides, today was a victory. Not for me. For me, today was a lesson in limitations. But I tried to look cheerful for the team. What did we win? Trix projects an image onto the wall with her e-glass. People riot down a street. Officers try to push them back. After you played your video, riots like this broke out all around North America and Europe. Most of them have been put down now, but people aren't happy. You made a fool out of Varian. But the world knows I couldn't beat him. Nah, for all they know, this was our entire plan. Reveal Varian's corruption.
Just got another confirmation, says TR, standing from his chair.
He walks over to Zoran, who's leaning against a wall.
Sons of Eden just agreed to the meeting. The video got their attention.
I shake my head in disbelief. I was contacted by the Red Eagles earlier.
They've confirmed as well. So have many of the smaller groups. We've got our meeting, man!
He roars, clasping Zoran on the shoulder. My eyes widen at the unlikely camaraderie they display. You two are getting along?
We talked,
says TR. I wonder if he shared how much he cares for Trix. I could hear it in his voice earlier. He would die for her. Carter enters with a tray of beverages and snacks.
Splendid to see you well, miss. I prepared a Life Force green tea to aid in your recovery.
Thank you, Carter. I try a sip, enjoying the taste. A message appears on my e-glass.
Hey, you need to get back to school. My father arrived early. They're having an official greeting ceremony and initiates have to be there. Corinne.
My new hand trembles, dropping the cup. The glass shatters, spilling red all over the floor.
Are you all right, miss?
Asks Carter. Yes, I'm fine. Sorry, I'll clean that up.
No, allow me, miss.
Carter bends to one knee and begins collecting the pieces of glass.
Miss, can you move over?
I stand frozen, barely hearing him. How can I face my friends again? How can I face Varian?
N?
Asks Trix. I don't respond. I am still, and everyone is silent. Their faces tighten in concern. But not Zoran. He looks at me calmly. And I remember what he said and step toward the door. I will not let fear stop me. I know I should hurry. Corinne made the ceremony sound important. But my mind is filled with plots and questions, and it's hard to motivate myself to walk faster through the busy New York streets toward the subway that will take me to Castle V, despite my earlier resolve. Sure, I could fly, but I need the space to think, to shift from Nightfall to Scarlet before I get back to school. Being two people isn't always easy. In fact, it's never easy. I'm lost in these thoughts, meandering toward the subway, when I hear the shriek of a cat. It's obviously in pain, but no one around me seems to care. A man in a business suit walks by, talking on his e-glass. A woman pushing a stroller doesn't glance up when the cat hisses and meows pathetically. The sound is coming from behind a dumpster by an Italian restaurant. I push through a gaggle of noisy students in uniforms and find myself face to face with a homeless man leaning against the brick wall. He has a shopping cart to one side filled with the kinds of treasures only those without any belongings could possibly value, and he's covered in brown and beige layers of recycled clothing. His eyes are a dull brown, and his face is shaded by dirt, sweat, and too many days and nights spent on the street. His hair hangs at mismatched lengths, a dark brown that is a tangle of filth. I feel an initial tug of sympathy for a man so invisible to the world, until I see what he's doing. He has a scrawny black cat trapped between his feet as he burns it with his red fingers. He laughs as he watches the cat squirm, hiss, and howl in an effort to escape the torture. He's not tagged as a Zenith. He lives outside the system, off the grid. This is the kind of man Nightfall and the Dark Templars are supposedly fighting for. And yet right now all I want to do is sink my teeth into his neck and drain him until he's a limp rag for what he's doing to that poor cat. The vehemence of my thought, and the thirst it produces, scares me. I shudder, take a deep, calming breath, and touch the man's exposed calf, who only just now notices me. He's about to say something, perhaps hit me with his pyromatics, when I'm in his mind, my powers seeking out his thoughts and controlling him. I'm hoping to see that this is an aberration, that he's stuck in something deep and the pain is leaking out of him in dangerous ways. But it's not who he is at the core. I'm disappointed. More than that. Disgusted. This isn't the first animal he's tortured. I watch a memory of him killing his dog out of gruesome fascination, enjoying the fear and pain in its eyes as it died. I cringe, bile rising in my throat, and I issue a command before pulling my hand away. I can't spend any more time in that man's brain. I'll have to scrub my frontal lobe for a week to undo the damage 20 seconds in his has caused me. I scoop up the cat, who looks more like a lanky teenager than a full-grown male, and pet him soothingly to calm him even as he digs his claws into my arm. "It's okay, kitty. You're safe now," I coo as my final instruction to the psycho in front of me takes effect. He's calm as he stands and walks onto the busy sidewalk. Finally, people notice him, but only long enough to shirk away from his unwashed body. A few minutes ago, I would have judged them for being so blind, so careless to others around them, to their own humanity. But I'm still too haunted by what I saw in his mind. So I wait and watch as he finds the nearest Inquisition officer and turns himself in for failing to register as a zenith, for animal abuse and cruelty, and for one other crime, a heinous assault that wasn't against an animal but a human. He confesses to everything, and they secure his wrists and arrest him. Now, I just want to get back to the castle and away from all these people. I feel dirty, repelled by the city and the darkness that lives within it. I tuck the shivering cat under my coat and make fast time to the underwater subway that takes me from the city to the island of Vianney. While surrounded by flora and fish, I think about what just happened. How life isn't as black and white as I'd thought. And if I'm being honest with myself, it's not as black and white as I'd hoped. That would be too simple. But just because someone is oppressed doesn't make them good. And just because someone is part of the system, privileged even, that doesn't make them bad. It's just as Jack said before. Some kind of regulation is needed, because not everyone can be trusted with this kind of power. So what is Nightfall fighting for? Who is she? Who am I fighting for? I don't have the answers as I show my initiate ring to the guards at the Vianney subway exit and make my way through the small island town to the castle. I've had Evie turned off for a while, and I turn her on as I stop under a tree just inside the castle gates. I'm shaking, and, I realize, crying. I sink under the tree and listen to the messages Evie has for me. All from Corinne, telling me to hurry. I like my new roommate. She's sweet, kind, not evil. But that man in the city, he was evil. Or if evil doesn't exist, as some believe, then he's very, very broken. I'm petting the cat, who has calmed under my touch and is purring against my chest, when my grandfather walks up to me in his flowing chancellor robes, his hair groomed but still a wild halo of white, his long beard tamed into a braid that falls down his chest. He lowers himself to the ground to sit next to me.
"Hello, Scarlet."
"Hello."
"You look deep in troubled thought,"
he says. I nod and tell him about the man torturing the cat. Zeniths are mistreated, and that needs to stop. It's not right. But they also mistreat others, and that's not right. Is there a way to protect the rights of one people without sacrificing the safety of another? I'm not actually expecting an answer, because I'm not sure one exists. But he responds,
"People aren't perfect, but they need to be given a chance to better themselves, to live, to figure out where they fit in this giant cog of humanity."
Right. So he doesn't really know the answer either. He reaches over to pet the cat, and the feline purrs louder.
"Have you given him a name?"
Not yet.
How about Nox?
I look down at the black cat with the big gold eyes. Latin for night? The Chancellor smiles.
I'm glad to see you've learned your dead languages, but I'm not surprised.
His eyes get a faraway look that I now recognize as him thinking about his daughter.
Your mother always did have an ear for them.
I want to ask more about her, but I don't think I can handle talking about that right now. Instead, I look down at the cat. Original, naming a black cat Night.
I like the night,
he says.
Sometimes we must work under the cloak of darkness to find the light.
I'm about to respond to his nebulous comment when he pushes himself slowly off the ground and holds his hand out to me.
Would you escort an old man to the ceremony? I'll likely enjoy it about as much as you, but we are expected to be there. And sometimes we have to play our part if we want our real work to matter.
I let him help me up with one hand as I keep the cat secure in the other. Of course. Can we walk by my room first so I can drop Nox off and get my robes? He nods and walks by my side in silence. I set up a box with paper for the cat and grab my initiate robe, throwing it on over my regular clothes. I message Agatha, warning her of our new roommate and asking if she could bring him some food and water. With a stern warning to Nox not to pee on anything while I'm gone, we head to the procession, which is set to take place in the center of the courtyard. Students have already swarmed the courtyard, and the Grand Masters stand side by side on a raised semicircle platform made of stone, waiting to receive King Varian. Chancellor Forrester takes his place at their center, and I join the crowd, staying close enough to hear and see everything as I try to avoid being trampled by the excited throng of pats. The fall quarter hasn't started yet, so we aren't at capacity in the castle, but it sure feels like we are right now. I look around for familiar faces, for Corinne or Wit, but I don't see either of them. The drawbridge is decorated with bright flags, and trumpets blast from along the wall as the Chancellor clears his throat and speaks to the crowd.
King Varian of the House of Ravens of Sapientia, Knight of the First Order of the Templars, we welcome you to Castle Viani.
More trumpets, and now I see them coming up the drawbridge into the courtyard, young men and women walking in step, dressed in gold and black with the Raven's House sigil flying on flags. A gold raven on black. They split to the side, revealing the king and his family. Corinne and Wit are there, but it takes me a moment to recognize them. Corinne easy-dyed her hair back to a dark chestnut brown, and is wearing a glorious golden gown with black lace trim that flows around her feet. It glitters with tiny yellow stones that shimmer under the setting sun. Her face is accented with golden eyeshadow and dark red lipstick, and she wears a small golden and jeweled crown on her head. Wit stands by her side, equally impressive in black velvet and leather with dark eyeliner highlighting his purple eyes. And to his right must be Kai, the oldest prince. He doesn't smile or look at anyone, his posture that annoying mix of arrogant and bored. I roll my eyes at how stereotypical of a prince he is, but I can't deny he's impressive with those royal purple eyes, strong jaw, tan skin, and shock of messy black hair. He looks fit, healthy, like he knows how to use that gleaming sword at his hip. And then there's King Varian, the most impressive of them all. He stands tall, a commander who knows his rank and place. He's also arrogant, but in the way that is earned from hard battle, a way that others respect. He's huge, just as I remember. All muscle. Tall. He wears black armor with a golden fur cape. His brown hair is long and held at the nape of his neck with a leather strap. Atop his head sits a gold crown embedded with black diamonds. He wears 2 swords, and they aren't merely ornamental. I glance down at my new hand and shiver. I know all too well how good he is with a blade. Corinne, Wit, and Kai move to stand near the Grandmasters, and the king walks up and focuses his penetrating gaze on Ragathon, which surprises me. They're not even in the same order. He holds out his hand to Ragathon, who takes it with obvious reluctance. The king smiles.
"Hello, brother."
My gasp is almost audible. Brothers? They're related? The veins on Ragathon's hand pop out as he squeezes the king's.
"We are no longer brothers, my king."
King Varian chuckles, and I feel confused, because I hate Ragathon, so I love that the king makes him squirm. But the king, he's dangerous, and he's my enemy. The king turns to examine the students and grandmasters before speaking to Ragathon again.
"It seems order has grown lax since last I was here. A failed execution, and another nearly sabotaged by rebels, and no one of note has risen through the ranks of Castlevania in many years."
He turns his eyes to Jax, the Seeker, and Thane, who are all standing at attention by the Grandmasters. With a practiced eye, he studies them.
"It's time for a change. It's time to see if anyone here has any worth."
Ragathon sneers.
"It's not like you've done any better against Nightfall and her rebels."
King Varian looks back at Ragathon and smiles.
"You assume, brother, that my intention was to capture her. That's always been your mistake. Going in with both swords raised and no thought to strategy. What did our father always teach us? The lesson you failed to learn? To defeat an enemy, you must first know them. In one move, I learned more about Nightfall, her team, her motivation, her abilities, than you have in all this time trying to capture her. I accomplished exactly what I set out to do. I discovered Nightfall's weakness."
My hands shake, and I hold them to make them stop. This isn't good. This is very, very bad. Ragathon sneers.
"And did part of that lesson include making a fool out of yourself to the world with that recording?"
I expect Varian to get mad, but he smiles instead.
"You put too much importance in your own pride and reputation. It limits you. Public opinion is as changing as the weather. I lost little compared to what I gained."
King Varian turns to the crowd and raises his voice.
"I'm hosting a tournament tomorrow. All younger knights from Castlevania must compete. The winner will receive a royal favor at my discretion. It's time to see what kind of knights our orders have produced."
Chapter 6. Castlevania. There's much cheering and shouting as the procession officially comes to an end. We're dismissed by the large bell that signals the dining hall is open. I've already finished my life force and am eating marshmallows and chocolates when Corinne and Wit set their trays down and join me. They've both changed back into their initiate robes, and Corinne's hair is back to pink, but I can see the remnants of their costuming in the makeup. It's amazing how much clothing can transform them from normal-looking young adults to splendid royalty. "You two looked incredible," I say through a bite of yummy whiteness. Wit mock bows, then picks up a fork and spears his steak.
"Thank you. I do my best to impress the ladies."
Corinne chuckles and takes a bite of her cheeseburger, chewing and swallowing before speaking.
"I'm starving. Dad wouldn't let us eat lunch. We spent all afternoon getting fitted for our outfits."
"It was quite a show," I say. Corinne rolls her eyes.
"It's nothing. Just theater."
She leans forward, a mischievous grin on her face.
"Never mind about politics. Tell us about your apartment and what you did all weekend."
Wit smiles.
Yes, do tell. It must be glorious, all that space to yourself. No one telling you what to wear, or when to eat, or drink, or what to say. Freedom. Utter, delightful, enviable freedom.
I look back and forth between them and realize they are dead serious. This is exciting for them. It's really not that interesting. Nor is it all that spacious. My apartment's pretty small. I assume this is true, but even a big apartment in New York could be considered small to someone who grew up in a castle.
But what did you do all weekend? Anything fun?
Corinne asks. Not terribly. I mean, I read books, got some rest, watched some movies, walked around a bit. That's mostly it. I'm surprised by how much I hate lying to them. These friends I've only known for a few days, whose father wants to destroy me. But I do. I hate it. I hate every dishonest word that comes out of my mouth. But I know I have to keep saying them or everything I'm trying to build will fall apart. I feel some level of sympathy for how hard it must have been for Jax to lie to me all those years. We're still talking about my apartment, a place I've never even seen, when Jax comes over and sits next to me.
Have you seen Scarlett's apartment?
Corinne asks. He looks at me with a raised eyebrow.
No, I haven't.
I shrug, trying to look casual. I figured it would be good to have a place of my own to go to when I need time alone. Something closer than my family's estate. He nods.
You always did like your own space.
Are you going to be in the tournament? I ask, changing the subject.
Yes,
he says.
Anyone who's a knight is required.
Wit smiles big.
It's going to be so cool. This is a great build-up for the tournament festival after finals.
What's that? I ask. Wit grins.
It's a week-long festival here at Castle V. There are lotteries throughout the world to give people who can't afford the outrageously high tickets a chance to attend. It's a lot of fun, and knights from everywhere come to compete. The winner gets a boon from the Pope.
That sounds fun, I say, distracted by all the laughing and yelling around us as people talk about the upcoming tournament. I didn't realize tournaments were such a big deal. Wit stands to leave.
I've got to place my bets before tomorrow.
Corinne grabs his robe before he walks off.
Nope. Remember, you promised our father. No more betting.
He groans and slumps back onto the bench.
Why'd you have to remind me? It's just a bit of bloody fun.
Wit looks over longingly at a group of people placing bets. Thane in the center, puffing out his chest and laughing.
All of you who bet on someone else are just burning your money,
Thane says.
I'm betting 2 million. On myself. Bet against me at your own risk.
The chattering stops as the others around him stare open-mouthed. I lean over and whisper to my friends, Where'd he get so much money?
Stories are, Wit says. It's not all legal.
That makes me curious. An inquisitor and cardinal, sworn to protect the law, potentially dealing in illegal activity. I wonder why no one has investigated. A young woman with curly hair and a sweet smile walks up to our table with a large basket full of colorful ribbons.
Get your token and choose your knight,
she says. Corinne pulls out some coins and picks a red ribbon.
Scarlett,
she says, smiling.
You should give one to Jax.
I blush and glance at Jax. Jax doesn't need a token to win, I'm sure. Jax clears his throat and stands to leave.
I've got a meeting to get to. I'll see you all later.
He turns to me.
Bye, Scarlett.
Bye. I pick up a piece of chocolate and look at Corinne, who's studying her ribbon. Who are you giving yours to? Wit nudges her shoulder.
My guess is the Seeker. Right, sis?
Corinne blushes and nods. Wit continues his teasing.
My sister has a crush on the knight. I don't blame her. Kira's stunning.
I just think she's very skilled, Corinne says. And she's one of the highest-ranking female knights in her order. I admire that.
Then she giggles and covers her mouth. And she is really stunning. This morning we are all excited. It's hard not to be with the small town of Vianney thrown into festival mood overnight by the announcement of the tournament. I have to give credit to the local business owners who must have been up all hours preparing for this impromptu day. Normally they aren't even open on Sunday, let alone out with booths and baskets hawking their wares to everyone. Corinne, Whit, and I walk through the crowded line of vendors and excited students until we're standing in front of the arena entrance. This is the first time I've seen the arena up close. Modeled after the amphitheaters and arenas of ancient Rome, but far larger, it was built in the middle of Vianney Park, with rounded walls of stone. Inside, the stadium is made of stone mixed with marble, with a center staging area for battles.
"Where should we sit?" Corinne asks.
I look around. I'm not sure, but can you guys wait here for a second? I'll be right back. No problem, says Whit. I thank them and run off. I need to find Jax. I ask a few people who direct me toward the entrance where the knights prepare for battle. It's a large room under the arena seating and is full of knights in a flurry of preparation. I easily spot Jax, one of the few not running around like a headless chicken. Hey! He smiles and sets his sword down on a table near him. Hey! I wring my hands and try to keep eye contact with him. Look, I know things have been hard, and you had your reason for keeping secrets, and I just want you to know you're still my best friend, and I don't want to lose that. His face visibly relaxes. Scarlet, I hated keeping secrets from you. I hated that I had to lie to you. I can't tell you how much you mean to me. I stick my hand in my pocket and pull out the wings he gave me the day my parents were killed. I wanted you to have this, as a token. The ribbons felt a little cliched. I laugh. Something like that. He accepts the token and sticks it to the breastplate of his armor. Thank you. It means a lot to me. Be careful, I say. It's not a tournament to the death. I'll be fine. Men. Maybe not to the death, but people do get hurt playing with swords. He chuckles. I promise to be careful while playing with my sword. I roll my eyes at him. You're impossible. He grins. Wish me luck and go get a seat. I need to focus. I hug him quickly, wish him luck as he asked, and go back to my friends. Whit waggles his eyebrows and winks at me. Methinks the lady has indeed bestowed upon her favoured knight a token of luck. Shut it, Whit, Corinne says. Leave her alone. We're about to choose a seat wherever we can find one before the arena fills up, when Evie speaks into my ear. Your grandfather requests your presence in the Grandmaster's seating. I look up at the same time Whit and Corinne do. Likely they got the same message from their father, because the Chancellor, King Varian, and the other Grandmasters are all seated in a special box not accessible from general seating. I'm about to ask how to get there when an Inquisition officer arrives. Princess, Prince, Your Grace, I've been sent to escort you to your seats. Corinne and Whit look nonplussed, so I go without objection. They're probably used to this. I'll have to get used to it too. I'm not a princess, but I'm no longer anonymous either. When we arrive at the Grandmaster's box, Ragathon glares at me. What's she doing here? My grandfather clears his throat and frowns at the belligerent Grandmaster. She is my granddaughter, and as such is entitled to enjoy today's festivities here, with her family, just as the princess and princes are allowed to join you and your brother, the king. He doesn't say those last words like acid thrown on Ragathon's face, but that's certainly how they land, and I smile inwardly. I might start calling him grandfather if he keeps this up. King Varian nods to Corinne and Whit, and I notice Prince Kai is already here, but paying us no mind. Fine by me. Corinne, Whit, and I take our seats as waitstaff from the castle serve us chilled wine, dried and fresh fruit, a variety of cheeses and crackers and 3 choices of meat, cut and speared on delicate silver toothpicks for ease. I have to admit, getting the royal pat treatment isn't awful. Trumpets sound as the tournament begins. 2 knights meet in the center of the arena and begin their battle.
Miss Knight, have you ever been to a tournament?
I look up from my assortment of treats in surprise to find King Varian talking to me. No, Your Majesty.
Pay close attention and you will learn a great deal about each knight here.
I nod, unsure of what to say. He leans closer to me and points to one of the knights currently dueling.
You see that one? How he keeps missing. He's not watching his opponent's torso, only their arms, their hands, their weapon. He's seeing the move a fraction of a second too late because of that. It's why he'll lose this match.
Despite myself and my fear of this man, I hang on his words, anxious to learn everything I can about combat and swordplay. For myself and my alter ego. I hide a smirk as I imagine what Varian would think about the fact that he's teaching Nightfall about combat. I watch and see what he's talking about. He's right. That knight loses. He keeps up a commentary with me and his children throughout the tournament, challenging us to notice small details we would have missed otherwise. When Jax fights a knight in hand-to-hand combat, I cringe, unable to eat or drink until the match is over and he's safe. King Varian pays close attention to Jax and nods at the end.
He has the makings of a great knight.
Ragathon frowns even more deeply at that. He's pretty much spent the entire tournament looking like he's sucking on rotten lemons. Poor guy. Must be hard to be so unlikable. After many hours, the final 3 knights are announced. Jax, Thane, and the Seeker. When Jax and the Seeker are put together to decide who will move on to fight Thane, I grip the edge of my seat and scoot forward, barely breathing as they fight sword to sword, the clang of metal ringing through the now quiet arena. King Varian makes a few comments, but I don't pay attention. Not this time. I can see my pilot wings on Jax's breastplate as he fights, and Corinne's red ribbon hanging from the Seeker. They battle with a ferocity that invigorates me. When, in the last moment, Jax disarms her and wins, I let out a breath in a whoosh of relief. Corinne slumps in her chair, and Wit pats her back.
Cheer up, sister. At least it was Jax you lost to and not that bloody Thane.
Ragathon grumbles, also displeased his protege lost to Jax.
They shouldn't let Zeniths into these, even if they are patrician. It's an unfair advantage. Why do we even use that word, Zenith? These people are not the pinnacle of humanity. They're the vermin.
King Varian shakes his head and smiles the way you would at a child who keeps making the same silly mistake over and over.
When Zeniths appeared, the people chose the word,
the king explains.
And so we had a choice. To fight the public and make them wrong, thus giving them power, or to allow them the illusion of choice, as we slowly worked from within to make their choice work for us. Through subtle marketing and a very effective public perception campaign, we changed the meaning of the word Zenith. They think they chose, but we control what they think and do about Zeniths.
He shakes his head at his brother.
But I wouldn't expect you to grasp the subtleties of mental warfare. If we did things your way, we'd just create a bunch of martyrs that would incite the people to revolt.
It's remarkable how different King Varian and Ragathon are. Not just in looks, though that too. The king is broad-shouldered, muscular, rugged, with brown hair, a handsome face, and those purple eyes. Ragathon is hawk-nosed, with black hair and dark eyes. He must be using easy eyes to change their color. His natural eye color must be purple. He also lost his accent. He obviously hates his family and wants no association with them. I wonder what happened. More trumpets blare, and King Varian stands to congratulate everyone and announce the final 2 knights to do battle. Jax and Thane. There's no doubt who everyone is rooting for this round. Well, maybe everyone but Ragathon. I never can tell about his loyalties. It's a tough match. Turns out Thane isn't all talk. He actually knows what he's doing. I get a sick feeling in my stomach as the match goes longer than any of the others. I can tell Jax is getting tired, and I hope he has enough stamina to beat Thane. King Varian is watching intently.
Was Jax ever punished for his crimes? For attacking Apex without orders?
My heart stops. Jax did nothing wrong. Ragathon is fast to answer.
No. Against my better judgment, the council chose to drop all charges. I suggested flaying and imprisonment.
I can't keep my mouth shut at this. Your better judgment? You would have punished an honorable knight for doing the right thing and stopping a criminal organization that was trafficking zeniths for the sport of the rich. You have no better judgment, only bitterness. The other grandmasters are shocked into silence. Even my grandfather raises an appraising eyebrow, but King Varian surprises me with a bemused chuckle.
Miss Knight is right. Imprisoning this knight for serving the people and upholding the law would have ruined what little reputation you have left, dear brother.
I slump back into my chair, relieved. But Ragathon continues to glare at me as King Varian watches Jax. It's a tough battle, but in the end, Jax wins. The crowd erupts in cheers, and I clap the loudest. Serfs bring in more refreshments and desserts as Jax is paraded around to the calls of his fans. King Varian eats a strawberry and leans back in his chair.
I'll be taking over combat class and tactics, he announces. I'm not impressed with what I've seen today.
He leans forward, watching Jax.
Except for him. He impresses me. I'll take him as my second.
He looks at Grandmaster Gabriella.
Those are your classes, correct? You don't mind, do you?
Grandmaster Gabriella looks like she just swallowed a rat, but she shakes her head. Of course not, Your Majesty.
Chancellor Forrester, I assume you have no objections.
My grandfather is watching me with a curious expression as he raises his hands, palms open.
We are at your disposal, Your Majesty.
The king smiles.
Please, call me Master Varian. Here, I'm not king, just a teacher and a knight.
The Chancellor nods.
Very well, Master Varian. We are pleased to have you as part of the initiate training. They will learn a great deal from you.
My grandfather strokes his beard.
However, I understand your primary reason for being here is to apprehend Nightfall. Might I ask what you have planned?
Master Varian looks back out into the arena, but his gaze is distant, lost in thought.
It's her move. Let's see what she's made of.
It's my move. Fantastic. Scarlet, Evie says, as I walk with Corinne and Wit to dinner. It would be unwise to underestimate King Varian. He does not appear to be as impetuous as his brother. Yeah, I know. Wit looks up.
You know what?
I tap my e-glass off. Nothing, just talking to my e-glass. He looks at me oddly, then shrugs.
Cool.
As we head to dinner, I notice a lot more people than before. It got crowded when I wasn't looking. Corinne nods. With classes starting tomorrow, a lot of last-minute students are showing up. Tonight's the welcome ceremony, so everyone's required to attend. I'd almost forgotten classes start tomorrow. A nervous butterfly flutters in my gut, mostly at the thought of getting up before dawn. Once everyone is settled with their dinner, Chancellor Forrester walks to the podium.
Welcome to Castle Viani for a new year of training and learning. To our returning students who have been chosen by their orders, you are about to embark on a new path with even greater trials. To our new initiates, prepare yourself for the greatest challenge of your lives.
That doesn't sound ominous at all. I look around and notice most everyone has stopped eating to listen, which is good. It means I don't have to fake eat anymore.
You will learn more from your individual classes, but for now, allow me to introduce you to our curriculum. You are about to begin your 4-quarter training here at Castle Viani. You will have 2 classes from each order. However, each quarter does have a different focus, which dictates the nature of the trial. The full focus is the Teutonic Order, and the trial at the end of the quarter will test your Teutonic skills.
Wit leans forward from across the table to whisper at us.
One of the initiates died last year in the Teutonic trial.
I look at him in surprise. What? Seriously? He nods.
Seriously.
That's crazy. How can they allow it? Wit shrugs.
To become a knight in the old days, you had to fight in battle. Many died. In lieu of battles, they must provide dangerous challenges to weed out the weak.
It makes sense, especially considering how close I came to dying during the initiate trials. It's cutthroat here. Literally. The Chancellor is still talking.
As some of you know, these trials are not for the faint of heart. They are graded as pass or fail. You pass if you succeed at the mission in the time allotted. You fail if you take too long, or surrender, or die.
Wit raises an eyebrow.
See?
The Chancellor continues.
Many of you might have heard that these trials are dangerous. If you are not willing to take those risks, then the knighthood is not for you.
He looks sternly at everyone before continuing.
You must pass all 4 trials to be considered for knighthood. You must also work hard at your classes. You will be graded on a scale of 1 to 10 for each class, and your masters will determine who amongst you is exceptional. For those they deem worthy, they will give you boons to take with you in your trial. These boons could mean the difference between success and failure. Do not underestimate the importance of attending all of your classes and doing well.
There goes my plan for ditching PT and sleeping in.
Furthermore, your masters will be evaluating you throughout the year. They will be the ones to determine who amongst you is chosen for their order. A word of warning. You could pass all the trials, but if you do not impress a knight of standing, you will not be chosen for an order.
I didn't know that. And by the reaction around the tables, many others didn't either. The Chancellor moves to the side as Master Varian joins him.
I'd like to now introduce you to a new master at our school. King Varian of the House of Ravens, first Knight of the Templars, is honoring us with his experience and training. He will take over several classes and act as my second for the Templar seat on the council.
Master Varian nods and takes the Chancellor's place behind the podium as my grandfather sits down.
Thank you, Chancellor Forrester. I look forward to sharpening the future blades of our orders and making them battle-hardened. There grows a greater threat in our world than just Nephilim or unchecked zeniths. Now, we have powerful rebel groups forming, flexing their muscles, trying to rip control of our world out of the hands of the Church and the Orders. You are the next generation of knights who will be tasked with keeping order, with stopping these rebels and bringing peace to these lands. Are you ready?"
As cheers fill the hall, I stare straight ahead, my heart pounding as I consider the cost of my double identity. Chapter 7. Grandfather. The sky is still dark. That's my second clue that it's entirely too early and I should still be in bed. My first clue was sleeping through Evie's alarm. Good thing my roommate is better at mornings than I am. Of course, Agatha also arrived before dawn with coffee for us both. I hope I thanked her in all my tiredness. I barely made it to physical training on time, but here I am, running an obstacle course at 5:45 in the morning, sweating through the morning chill. I can't use my Nephilim abilities to regulate my body temperature, because that requires the use of my wings. Instead, I strip off my black Castle V sweatshirt and tie it around my waist as I keep pace with Corinne and Whit. We're all dressed the same, in our workout pants and black shirts, all embossed with the Castle V logo. And everyone looks equally miserable. "I really don't think we should have to wake up before the sun. It should be a law," I complain as I duck under branches, jump over logs put as obstacles in the woods, and try not to trip in the dark. Of course, Mirrodin used to wake me up this early for training, but that was different. I wasn't leading a double life and living on almost no sleep back then. Ah, the good old days. Corinne looks over at me sympathetically, her hair blue this morning rather than pink. "It gets easier." I don't believe her, but I keep my mouth shut. I don't want to sound like the whiner I clearly am right now. Zoran will probably be thrilled to know I'll be working out so much. At least one of us will be happy. Whit's quieter than usual, and I nudge him as we turn a corner in the trail. No witty banter to keep us distracted? Corinne laughs. "You and my brother share the love of mornings," she says. "A kindred spirit," I say, giving Whit a small smile. He grins back at me.
"The deep darkness of the night is where my soul thrives."
Understood. I nearly trip over a rock in the path, but my reflexes are faster now, and I catch myself before I fall. That's a nice perk to all the changes I'm going through. Not to mention my level 1 Andronics mod. That feeling is short-lived. 3 guys from our class pass us, and the big one in front, who looks like a linebacker with a thick, meaty body and short dark hair, sticks his leg out to trip me. This time I do fall, scraping my knee on the rocky dirt. Whit and Corinne stop and help me up as the guy turns around and smiles.
"Sorry about that. Hope you don't tell your grandpa on me."
He turns and runs away before I can think of a good comeback. I stand, dust myself off, and we start running again after I assure my friends I'm fine. "What was that about?" I ask. Whit and Corinne exchange a look that I can tell means they know something I don't. "Come on, guys. Spill it." Corinne shrugs her shoulders.
"She'll find out eventually," she says to Whit.
I look to her and then to Whit. "Find out what?" Whit sighs.
"That's Garen. He doesn't like you much."
I can see that. But why? I've never even met him. Corinne answers.
"He and his sister were scholarship students. They were on a waiting list, and they both got into the initiate trials. Until you showed up."
I can tell this isn't going in a good direction. What did my showing up have to do with it?
"The orders only accept a certain number of initiate prospects each year,"
Whit says.
"There's a huge waiting list. Even though there are other schools that train knights, this school is the most elite. The best of the best train here. People from all over the world want in."
And now I understand. Someone told me I replaced another initiate prospect for the trials. It was his sister, wasn't it? Corinne nods.
"She was the weakest candidate."
But Doesn't he know her chances were low regardless? She was up against the Princess of York. I barely got in.
Doesn't matter, Wit says. That version of reality never happened. In his reality, the only reason his sister isn't here is because of you.
First day of class and I already have enemies. Fantastic.
Wit pats my back. But you already have friends, too.
We're just getting back to the castle when hidden speakers come to life, and a British voice I recognize as my grandfather's fills the air.
Attention, Vianney students and faculty. Tomorrow night there will be a public whipping in the castle courtyard. All are required to attend. Thank you, and enjoy your day.
I stop and lean over to catch my breath. They do whippings here? Corinne looks down at her black sneakers. Sometimes, if one of our own is being punished. I don't enjoy seeing people suffer, and I can tell Corinne feels that doubly. Any idea who? Wit shakes his head.
Haven't heard a thing about it. Weird. Usually these things are being talked about days in advance.
I start walking to my room when Corinne calls me. Where are you going? I look down at my sweaty body. To shower. Wit laughs and throws an arm over my shoulder.
Oh, darling, you have so much to learn. We have 15 minutes to grab breakfast before our combat class begins, where you will just get sweaty all over again.
I slump under the weight of his arm. Really? All my muscles are sore from running, push-ups, sit-ups, the obstacle course, and not sleeping enough. Now I have 2 more hours of training? At least I'm going to be in excellent physical condition by the end of the quarter. If it doesn't kill me first. We make quick work of breakfast, with me begging off food in favor of Life Force and coffee. I'm still guzzling the too-hot brew as Corinne and Wit push me out of the dining hall. We enter the arena where our combat class is taught. It looks different today. More like the empty ruins it was modeled after rather than the bustling stadium it was last night. A few scraps of red cloth from discarded tokens are all that remain as a reminder of the celebrations. There's about 20 of us waiting for class to start, and it's the first time I've seen all the initiates in one place without the other knights. Corinne, Wit, and I stand to the side, leaning against the arena wall. I take the time to study the other students. Garin and his 2 buddies are standing in the middle, clowning around and mock fighting with the few of the swords that hang from a weapons rack near them. He has a fighter's face, his bent nose looking like he might have broken it a time or two. When he sees me looking at him, he sneers, but I don't turn away my gaze. I feel bad that his sister lost her spot at the initiate trials, and I hate that I'm the reason for it. But I'm not about to let my empathy excuse his bullying. So I hold his stare until he turns away and punches one of his friends in the shoulder, who yelps and punches him back. Do you 2 know everyone here? I ask. Wit nods.
Mostly, yes.
He points to a girl alone off to the side. She's pretty, slim, with golden brown hair in an A-line cut that shines under the sun, which finally woke up, and golden eyes.
She's a bit of a mystery. Comes from royal blood, or so I've heard. An old family, but I'm not clear on which old family.
He points to the oldest member of our class, an Asian man probably in his 40s, with shoulder-length black hair. He's doing a graceful kata that looks meditative, like something he's done his whole life.
His name is Akio. He's been trying to get into this school for a few years, and finally made it. He's not from a well-known family, but they are well-respected in Korea and very wealthy.
I'm impressed. How do you know all this? Corinne snorts. He's a busybody.
I resemble that remark.
Wit quips with a grin.
I just know how to ask the right questions.
I point to a guy and girl who are flirting with each other. And them? She's got dark hair and eyes, with a curvy body. He's tall, blonde, and attractive. The kind of face that could sell movie tickets.
The girl is Lana. She's from a noble, and very rich, Spanish family. And he's Prince Jeden of Sweden. Not the crown prince, so he gets to have more fun.
I look around and notice someone missing. Where's your brother? Corinne frowns. He'll be here soon. Punctuality isn't his strong suit.
As if on cue, Kai strides in, that cocky gait to his walk, just moments before Master Varian joins the class with Jax by his side. The king is dressed like all the masters, in a long black robe with the castle crest on one side of his chest and his own order on the other. But you can't watch him walk and not see the royal blood in him. The leader. The king. Even without the fancy outfit and crown. Even with just a leather strap holding back his hair, and his sword strapped to his hips. Jax looks around and stops when his gaze lands on mine. He smiles, his eyes crinkling in that way I know so well, and I smile back. For that moment, we're still just those kids who liked to build forts together in my backyard, who played with sticks and pretended they were swords. It's still strange, seeing him in this world, with a real sword hanging from his hip. He outranks me in every way imaginable, and yet he's still the boy I grew up with. Everyone starts to line up as Master Varian walks to the front of the class.
You know who I am, and I'll learn about you as I see you fight. So we're going to skip formalities and get straight to it. In this class, you will learn combat. With weapons, with your hands and feet, with your mind, he says, pointing to his own head. But first, I want to see what you're made of. So, I'm going to pair you with one of your classmates, and each team will take center stage and spar until one of you wins.
My hands start to sweat as he calls out names. Corinne is paired with Lana, Wit with Akio, and I get stuck with a smirking Prince Kai. Kai walks over to me and grins.
Guess my dad likes you even less than he likes me.
I cross my arms over my chest. Really? How do you figure?
Because he may not like me, but he knows I can fight.
He lays his hand on the sword at his hip, a sword that looks way more dangerous than any of the chipped and fading steel on that weapons rack.
If he put you with me, he wants to see you fail. I wonder what you did to anger him.
I shrug, unsure how to respond to that. We've already formed a circle around the first two students set to spar. They each pick a sword from the rack and begin on Master Varian's command. I expect to see fumbling and false starts, but they've both clearly had training. I'm getting a bit nervous. My sword-fighting skills are still rudimentary at best. I can do the way of Nyx like a champ, but since Zoran won't teach me more until he's satisfied, I'm stuck. And I don't know if Kai's as good as he says, but I'm not keen on losing a duel my first day. When our names are called, I walk over to the rack and look at my options. None look like they will be much of a match against the gleaming, sharpened masterpiece Kai has. I wish I could use my mother's sword here, but it's too distinctly Nightfall now. I'll need to get a sword as Scarlet's sooner rather than later. I pull one out and test the weight. Satisfied, I take my place and face Kai. He winks at me, his purple eyes offset by black hair that falls over his forehead each time he moves.
Ready?
Master Varian asks. We both nod.
Begin!
We circle each other, swords held at ready. I grip the hilt, trying to keep the right amount of pressure. Not too tight, not too loose. I keep my body relaxed and focus on Kai's core. I lunge, and he parries. We're not fighting so much as testing. The clang of metal is loud. Everything in me wants to unleash my Nephilim abilities as I fight, but I know I can't. Not here. It would be suicide. I rein in my pulsating heart and the heat building in me as our swords continue to clash and we continue to lunge. He's playing with me, like a cat toying with a mouse before dinner. I do my best to keep a handle on my temper. Battles can only be won with cool heads. When Kai picks up his attack, getting more aggressive with each move, I have to keep up. I twist, move, my feet kicking up dirt as I block and thrust. But he's faster, better, his skills honed since childhood. He's getting too close. I'm losing balance, losing focus. I'm on the defensive. I can't lunge or attack. I can only keep him from cutting me. First one to draw blood wins. I will not lose. I use a move from the Way of Nyx, a move meant to regain the offensive when your opponent has you backed into a corner. With it, I push him forward and knock his sword from his hand. He looks surprised, shocked even, and Master Varian comes over.
"Well done, Miss Knight."
He looks at Kai.
"I'm disappointed, Kai. I expected more from you."
When he looks back at me, I can feel Kai's rage as well.
"Miss Knight, where did you learn that move?"
Oh no. I think fast and decide something close to the truth is best. Videos of Nephilim fighting. There's a gasp in the crowd of students and Kai raises an eyebrow. I expect rebuke from Master Varian, but he smiles at me.
"Good job. Continue."
He turns his back to us, addressing the class.
"Miss Knight has taught everyone here an important lesson. Learning from the enemy is a critical strategy to take if you want to defeat them."
Kai sneers at me as we begin to spar again.
"Looks like being the granddaughter of the great Chancellor Forrester doesn't really translate into actual skills," he mocks. "Just tricks learned from videos."
It worked on you, I remind him. But he's right. I'm a one-trick wonder, and I don't have any more up my sleeve. He lands a hit on my sword so hard that it chips and makes my whole arm feel as if it's been ripped off. His attack is more aggressive as everyone watches to see what will happen next. I try another move from the Way of Nyx, but it's less effective, and I'm back to being on the defensive, trying to keep my skin intact. When he pushes forward again, our bodies close now, our two swords locked together between us, he clenches his teeth.
"This school doesn't need any rich, spoiled brats who got here on Mommy and Daddy's death card."
And all at once, it's game over. My rage, my pain, the pit of despair I keep buried deep. It all surfaces. I can't control it, not anymore, and with all of my strength, Nephilim and human, I push him forward. Slashing so hard my own sword breaks on his and he flies back into the student standing many feet behind him. He knocks two of them down and they cushion his fall. All eyes are on me now. Master Varian walks over. I drop my sword, my body shaking from rage. But as I see the expressions on those around me, fear replaces rage. What have I just done? Did I expose myself? Have I ruined everything?
"Miss Knight, please come with me."
I swallow through a dry throat and follow the king away from the group, away from Kai, who is already back on his feet and dusting himself off. Jax looks worried, but he doesn't follow. I'm on my own. When we reach the outside of the arena, Master Varian stops and turns to me.
"You lack control."
I nod. Yes, I know. I'm working on it. He cocks his head.
"Good. You aren't full of bluster and false confidence. You know your weaknesses, and that's the first step to correcting them."
Am I in trouble?
"For knocking Kai over?"
I nod. Sure, let's go with that. I was thinking more for using powers I shouldn't have. And then I realize the truth even as he says it, and my heartbeat slows to normal.
"Most of the students here have had a year or more to adjust to their Gen Mod abilities before starting their initiate training. I know your history. I know you were not raised a patrician, were not trained to become a knight. I knew your parents, and I understand their motivation. I even respect it. So no, you are not in trouble. But it does mean you will have to work 10 times harder than the other students here, at least in this class. You will have to practice controlling your new strength. You will have to master the use of a sword.
He frowns.
And you need a better sword. One of your class and rank cannot train with what the school provides. It's beneath you. But more importantly, it will never be enough to adequately teach you how to fight an opponent with the skills of someone like my son. Kai has been training his whole life. He may not appreciate the skills he has, but he is one of the best swordsmen here. It's why I put you with him today, so you could learn from someone with real skill and talent, so you could see what you could become with hard work.
Kai has no idea how his father really sees him, I think.
Are you ready to return to class?
I nod. Yes, Your Master Varian. He chuckles.
Very good.
I follow him back into the arena as he calls for Kai.
Work with her until I tell you otherwise.
Kai scowls, but he does as he's told. We get into position. Varian tells us to start, and in an instant I am disarmed. My sword falls into the dirt, and Kai grins, flourishing his giant blade.
That's how quickly I can defeat you.
I look at my trembling hand, shocked at my sudden defeat. Why didn't you fight like that earlier?
Because you're here to learn, and you learn very little when you lose in 1 second.
He turns his head sideways, smiling.
But clearly, you're ready for more. Prepare yourself.
For the next hour, I do nothing but spar with Kai. Over and over again, I am knocked to the ground, slammed in my arms and shoulders and stomach. But I learn. I study. I memorize everything he does. I have Evie record every drill we do. And I do not give up. Chapter 8. Day 1. Varian made me stay after class to correct my form and offer helpful feedback on my lunges. While I appreciated the extra tutoring in an area I'm woefully lacking, I did not enjoy the frantic dash to get showered, changed into my next class on time. And of course, my next class is law, with Ragathon as my teacher. And I'm woefully late. As soon as I walk in, his eyebrow shoots up, and the corners of his lips turn down.
Thank you for joining us, Miss Knight. I hope we haven't inconvenienced you in any way. Spoiled your morning?
Half the class chuckles at his sarcasm. Corinne and Wit both smile sympathetically at me as I sit between them. Wit nudges me.
You okay?
I nod.
What did my father want with you after class?
I roll my eyes. More training. I sneak a glance at Kai, who's sitting across the class. He's staring at me, and doesn't break eye contact when he sees me looking. So I don't either. I try to read his eyes, to figure out what he's thinking, but Ragathon interrupts my thoughts by standing between us.
Miss Knight, are we interrupting your daydreaming, or would you care to venture an answer to the question?
I look up. Could you repeat it, please?
Repeat it? Were you not sitting right here in the class?
Snickers drift around the room, and Corinne points down at her notebook. She wrote, "Give an example of a law specifically created in response to Zenith abilities." The Standardized Registration Act was passed, I say, requiring Zeniths to register their class levels with the appropriate agency or face fines or imprisonment. Ragathon smirks.
I should have known you would go for the most obvious. That law is known by children learning to talk. This is not grade school, Miss Knight. If you cannot manage to bring something more, I'm afraid you'll not fare well at Castle Viani.
A voice from behind Ragathon interrupts him.
Isn't that why we're here? To learn this stuff?
Ragathon turns in surprise to face Kai. His face softens when he looks at his nephew.
Of course, Kai. You are. but there is an expectation that you come with some semblance of knowledge before starting the classes." "I'm sure she does," Kai says in my defense. "But everyone has their own unique skills, right? So Scarlet may not know a lot about law, but she undoubtedly knows a lot about other subjects, given her family." Ragathon turns to face me with a look of subdued rage. "I'm sure she does, given her family." He walks to the front of the class and uses his e-glass to project a list of assignments on the board. "Write this down and complete the work before our next session. Class dismissed." He leaves the classroom while we're all still taking notes. I wonder if this was his original homework plan, or if it was tripled on my account. I want to thank Kai for sticking up for me, but when he passes us he doesn't look happy. "Guess my dad likes you after all," he says. "I don't know what you mean." "Granddaughter of the Chancellor gets special privileges, it seems. He doesn't offer one-on-one training to just anyone." "Cut it out, Kai," Wit says. "Like the son of a king doesn't get special privilege." He throws his backpack over his shoulder. "Being Varian's son hasn't exactly been a privilege for me." I'm over this. I stand, books in hand, and lean toward him. "At least you still have a father." I leave as Corinne and Wit scramble to catch up. They flank me on each side. Corinne shakes her head, a sad look on her face. "Try not to take it personally, though I'll definitely smack him for that. Our father is a fair man, but he's also a hard man, and he's always been especially hard on Kai. It's hurt him. When we came to Castelviani, Kai only agreed to come for 2 reasons: to watch out for us, and to get away from our father." "Looks like he failed on that count," I say, feeling a small tinge of pity for him as we head to lunch. But he needs to grow up and stop acting like he's the only one who's been hurt by life. I'm completely in my element for our espionage class. Finally, I don't feel like the black sheep in the group. My grandfather is teaching the class, and he asks us all to pull out our tablets. Mine looks beat up and old, but it has a faster processing speed and more customization than anything on the market, even at Castle V. I built it myself, so I would know. I smile up at him as I wait for our instructions. I'm beginning to see the pattern of our first day of school. Introduce us to our subject by giving us an impossible task and seeing how we do. So far, I haven't done well. That's about to change. My grandfather leans on his staff as he speaks to the class.
"In espionage, you have to know how to access the enemy's information to use to your advantage. In today's world, that often means hacking into top-secret files. This afternoon, we're going to pretend Castelviani is the enemy."
This gets a few chuckles, but my stomach flips a little as I remember that Castle V is Nightfall's enemy.
"I want you to hack into the main frame of our library. It's got firewalls you won't even know are there, and I don't expect any of you to succeed. In fact, if you do, we may have to fire someone today."
More chuckles.
"But I want to see how creative you can be in problem-solving," he continues, "so I know what we need to work on."
He uses his e-glass to set a timer.
"You have until the end of class. Go!"
I turn on my tablet, and as soon as it comes to life, I go to work, my fingers flying over the keypad. I've already hacked into the infirmary database when I was looking for my test results, so I know what kind of firewalls Castle V uses. They're good. Maybe great. But they aren't a challenge for me. I hear Wit curse under his breath, and I know he's not alone in his struggles. I wish I could help, but I'm hyper-focused on my task. It doesn't take me long to locate what I need in the mainframe. I use a special program I designed last year to unravel the passcodes and sneak past the secondary firewalls that are supposed to be hidden. There's a third layer I was also expecting, and it proves more difficult, but not insurmountable. I focus for another few minutes, brain and fingers working in sync like a machine, Nothing else exists but me and the zeros and ones of this familiar language. Another 10 minutes, and I smile and turn my tablet toward my grandfather. He raises an eyebrow and shuffles over to me, his walking stick clanking against the stone floors.
Are you having some trouble, Scarlet?
Others around me look up as he approaches. I shake my head. No, I'm done, I say. There's some shocked mumbling behind me that I ignore.
That's impossible,
he says.
Let me see.
He takes my tablet and looks at my work. It wouldn't have taken so long, but I wanted to see if I could crack the restricted file section while I was in. He chuckles.
Don't worry, no one can get in there.
Oh, I got in, I tell him. And I fixed your firewall so no one else can get in again. I also created a back door for later access. My research on angels hasn't gone well, but maybe this section of the library will have answers. And you never know when I might need that back door for other lines of inquiry. It takes him a moment to check my work, and when he sets my laptop back down on my desk, he looks decidedly impressed.
Your mother really did teach you everything she knew.
I nod, tears stinging my eyes. Not everything, I say, thinking of all the secrets I didn't know. But she did teach me my way around a mainframe.
Clearly,
he says.
Well done, granddaughter. I think you just got our IT person fired.
How did you do that? Corinne asks as we leave espionage and head to APD, a class I'm definitely not looking forward to. I've been hacking since I was 4 years old, I tell her.